welcome to the GCW Plant Podcast, episode 10. I am your host, Mystical Jericho, and back with us again, Mr. John J. Wolf. How you doing tonight, John?
Again, happy to be here, and I'm ready for another great podcast with you, bud.
Awesome. So today we are covering GCW's No Signal in the Hills that happened 2 Fridays ago, July 15th. And before we go over this show, I have to do a little backstory on it because I lost a little bet to my wife here. And we were going to go to the show because we've gone to a lot of the LA shows lately, and we missed the last couple just because the drive down there, financial reasons, or dealing with the crowd, because sometimes in the crowd, if we get general admission seats and we don't get our normal front row, it gets a little tough because we usually stand over by the entranceway, and a lot of people stand by there too, and we get there like first. We're usually the first ones in line. We wait outside for an hour so that way we could get a good spot because we're shorter people and we don't want anyone blocking us. So we usually get like right up front in the front row for general admission, standing by the entrances and stuff. But then usually by 45 minutes into the night, people that just showed up to the show end up pushing their way in front of us and end up standing in front of us and blocking us all night long. So we've kind of last couple GCW LA shows, we haven't gone because of that or whatever, like I said, financial or just timing.
Yeah.
This was one of them where I said we were going to go, but then my wife was going out of town, which I thought was this weekend. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to buy tickets then. But then she told me that she's leaving a couple days after this event. So when I went to go look on tickets, front row was gone. So all there was left is general admission. But then, like I said, I didn't want to go through all this stuff. She was going on her trip. I wanted her to have fun on her trip financially. So I decided to go against going to this show. And almost immediately while watching the show, I regret it. I ended up telling her how I really wish we would have gone because of all the great action and surprises that happened. And of course, she had to say, I told you so. I told you so. So I wish I would have gone to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. It looked really exciting too. It looks like this was one of those ones where you told me before I even had a chance to watch it. You said the first half of this match was the best first half I think you've seen from GCW since you've watched. Does that sound right? Or
yes,
am I close to that?
Nope, you were absolutely right. I would say about 2/3 of the show. The first 2/3 was amazing, and they had a couple different surprises. Awesome action. I immediately, probably after the second match or third match, I kind of regretted not going. But had to put family first. I wanted her to have a good time, but I'm immediately regretting that. And she regrets it too. She really wishes we would have gone after I told her all the cool things we missed. So had to give her the shout out of her being right. And we should have gone to this LA show and express my disappointment in my decision of not going to the show.
Oh, dude, I need to get to my first show out in LA after the Las Vegas show. I got to get out to LA. I don't see him coming out to Vegas as much, at least right now. And it seems like Los Angeles is really kind of a regular stopping point now. Plus, you have LA fights out there. It's hard to argue. Such a big city, a lot of fans. I am kind of nervous about going to these shows because with New York and LA, you're going to get real passionate people, and they are going to think of sometimes themselves first. It's me and GCW, and anyone else in the way can sometimes, be pushed aside. It does happen, unfortunately, and it should happen less, especially with kids involved. And kids more or less, especially like in your situation, especially Mystical. You have a kid there. You just got to be careful. But same thing. I'm getting ready to go out to Disney here in towards the end of the year. And I really need to make sure I save money too. Otherwise, I'd be going to this next LA show. I think it's in September, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only thing really stopping me is that I have to make sure Mickey Mouse gets his money. Otherwise, we're already planning on where good hotels are. So if anybody listening to this goes to the LA show and they know a couple decent hotels nearby, please let me know, because I am interested, and I definitely want to meet people that are there, and I definitely want to talk to everyone. So if anyone does want to say hi and they find we're going out to any of these shows, please do so, because that would be really awesome.
Yeah, that goes along like with another reason why I'm kind of disappointed I didn't go, because they did have it announced the LA Fight Show was going to be happening as well, but what ended up happening, they ended up putting some GCW regulars, especially a couple of our favorites, onto that LA Fight show, which absolutely made me regret even more not going, because we could have saw Jordan and Nick Wayne on 2 nights, or actually third if we want to throw in VXS. That was another little caveat to all this situation, was the VXS show that I really wanted to check out. But yeah, it was disappointed. After seeing the show, I was like, oh, that was one of those FOMO moments, you fear of missing out. And I definitely had that moment that night, and my wife was right. We should have gone. But like you said, like we don't go, like we don't bring our son to the LA shows because we know just that crowd does get rowdy and passionate, like as you said. And like I know how it's going to be. So we've been very careful on the shows we have taken him to for GCW. We know that, hey, like Hammerstein, I know we were sitting far enough away where if it were to get crazy, even though I was 100% it wasn't, based off of what I know about the New York State Athletic Wrestling Commission. So we don't take him there, but it just kind of sucks because, like, yeah, we're both shorter people, and if we don't get front row, we're like, hey, we can't literally push people out of our way. Like, we're not the kind of people that would push people out of our way when they stand in front of us.
No,
but
you're pretty cool. You're not that type.
No, like we've had a couple people where, hey, they accidentally, just because of, it's kind of like a mosh pit at a concert where you're standing room only, people do get switched to different spaces throughout the night. But it just kind of sucks when we're like the first ones in there, first ones there at our spot for the night, and then 45 minutes in, we got a whole bunch of rude people standing in front of us and not acknowledging that we were there first, not acknowledging like, hey, they're 5 feet taller than us and blocking our view, even though we were first. We would expect a little bit more decorum in that fashion, as you were kind of saying. Like, you would kind of wish people would turn around, like, oh, hey, like, yeah, you were here first. I'm blocking you now. I didn't realize it. Here, like, can you see now? Am I blocking you? We ran into those cool people, which is those people. Shout out, thank you. You're awesome for doing that kind of stuff. But we've also ran into the normal people we see at all the LA shows, where they're there, they think they're the most important person there, and have to get the money that they paid for, because they pay the same amount of money we did. But I don't know, just a lot of different factors went in, and just kind of wish that some more people at GCW shows would be more polite with that kind of stuff. But I don't want to divulge into that too much. But
that's understandable.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that probably you've met more good than bad. You know how it is. Like, one can really screw up an experience, or 2 or 3 that are not thinking about the other 2 bad ones. They're just thinking of themselves. And I think you're going to get that with any general crowd. And I wanted to say, because on my end, I would also say I'm very fortunate. I haven't come across anyone yet. And I was told, I mean, I know that you kind of said the Vegas crowd was a very good crowd, but also a very laid back, relaxed kind of crowd. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I had to grab a drink once or twice. Everybody was pretty decent. You still had to say, I'm sorry, thank you, raise your voice a little bit and kind of get through so I could get to my front row at the time. But I could see where if I wasn't vocal and trying to push forward, I would have got lost in the sea real quick. And even at 6 foot, I don't know, maybe 6 foot 1, 2, 3, I probably would have stood over behind where the couple rows of seats were and just watched over the heads of the seated people, because there just was no way getting into those aisle areas. Even with the Vegas show, it's just people really love it, man. And they're not about doing anything more than really loving it. And yeah, I've had nothing but good experiences, and it definitely doesn't reflect on GCW. It's just every now and then you get somebody who's in their teens or 20s who really is about them. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. They usually get older and learn and become us with kids, hopefully. And, they think about those things. But yeah, I'm so sorry that kind of hits you, man. That kind of stinks a little. But yeah, don't let that one apple or 2 bad apples kind of screw it up for all the cool ass people that stood there and shared the love.
Yeah, it affected my decision to a point. Like I said, her going on her trip and money situation and everything. Like, it was all a bunch of different factors, but that is one of what the factors is, like people just standing right in front of you that show up late and just think that Hey, we paid for these things. You didn't pay for the seats. General admission. We could just stand right in front of you. But like you said, there's very few people like that. It just seems like it's always the same people. Because we all
Yeah,
like when we
yeah.
go, everybody stays in the same seat and same crowd. But that happens, like you said, not just GCW shows, not just LA crowds. It could happen anywhere at any time. But I've just noticed it happen more there because, like as you said, they don't come to Vegas quite often. They seem to hit up LA, which is I know they consider that like their second home outside of Atlantic City. Hence why they
Hmm.
made LA fights and they go to LA quite often. So I know like, hey, LA is like a 4 hour drive. It's not that big a deal for us to drive down there to LA, catch the show, and come back and get ready for work the next day. So we've been trying to catch a lot more of the LA shows, which we have, and it's been good. Like when we have our front row seats, no, not a problem there because like we paid for them, but those other times we were not fortunate enough to get front row seats and stood in general admission. It's been hit or miss, but like you said, I'm not going to let that affect the decision next time. I'm not having a FOMO next
Nope.
time. I'm
Nope.
not missing out and fearing of missing out because of some people standing in front of us. I will make sure to get the correct tickets next time so that way we have a seat and no one can stand in front of us and say that, hey, I paid for this. I'm allowed to stand here. No, you're not. I paid for these seats. You're not allowed to stand here and block me. So lesson
Yeah, the
learned.
$10 a week, man. Sock $10 a week away, and then by the time the next show rolls around, you should be able to cover 2, 3, people and maybe some food or drinks.
Yeah.
I think, and no kidding, like that's the way to go. That's living off of paycheck to paycheck and doing what you can. I've had even less to work with, so I mean, if you could do as just one person, $5 a week, by the time the show rolls around, you'll have 30, 50. I mean, and then you can just top off the rest with
Yeah.
whatever money you have. But that's the great way to go, and don't be throwing dollars in the ring
Yeah.
for
Right.
the luchas if you don't have the money. Just enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Make sure you have some water and relax.
And I was like, I don't want to like. I know it kind of sounds like I'm shitting on the LA crowd. I'm absolutely not. It's just the bad apples, and there's bad apples in every city. There's probably bad apples here in Vegas. I was just luckily fortunate enough to avoid those bad apples this time because we got front row seats. And that was another thing, kind of going back how we kind of first met and decided to do this podcast. We didn't even know we were sitting 3 chairs away from each other at the LA show or at the Vegas show. So the Vegas crowd the LA crowd is one of a kind. It is when they get what they want, they are very passionate. And this card proved it. I know they have a craving for the death matches and they kind of feel like, hey, like we have a lot of people that want deathmatch wrestling out here in LA too. Why does Atlantic City get it all? Or why does Chicago get all the tournaments? How come we can't get that kind of stuff out here in LA? Which I think they're kind of starting to book a little bit more, as we will see in this card, trying to give the deathmatch appetite and appease that appetite to the fans. And they're starting to put out more death matches. But that LA crowd though, like when they're hot, they are hot, and it makes those shows that much fun.
Nice.
That much more fun, I should say. But in Vegas, I think this is the exact way I described it to you. It was a LA crowd, but without kind of like the indecency of the LA crowd where, hey, we didn't have people blocking people or being rude or disrespectful. Like it was really good out here in Vegas, and hopefully we'll start adding some more Vegas shows into the West Coast loops that they do here.
Yeah, we're just another one of those people that we need GCW in the city as much. Get them to my city as much as possible, man. And I've already been begging. I've been begging on Patreon, and not begging, but damn close to begging. So.
And before we talk about the action at GCW's No Signal in the Hills, I did want to cover one thing real fast too, which I thought was a very cool thing, which I kind of hope they maybe start doing more, even though I know it probably costs them a lot of money. But the mat is Laker themed. We got a gold and purple GCW apron on the ring, and it was pretty cool because up top of where GCW is all in purple, it has like a little cool border on top, and it has the LA kind of stitched into it. So it's kind of cool since it's being in LA, being Laker country. I like seeing the cool purple and yellow or purple and gold kind of salute to the LA crowd. And as well, they were selling the same kind of shirts with the purple and gold GCW logo with the LA up top, which is another cool thing I thought they did for this show.
I think that the canvas is just another thing that's going to solidify GCW and LA together.
Yes, like I said, I thought that was a cool thing when I first saw it. It stuck out to me. Now, like I said, I'm not even an LA fan, per se, since I live out here in Vegas, I don't really root for any LA sports teams or anything, but that was a cool thing where I would actually go out of my way to buy that, just because it was to me, awesome kind of, hey, let's give homage to LA and the LA Lakers, even though, like, even us being in LA, we can still kind of show the LA crowd some love that way.
Yeah, you know what? Let's see here. Gringo Loco, Rocky Romero. I'm going to check my notes here. I had great opener. Two solid performers. There was a lot of Gringo chants from the get-go, and it kind of carried through the match for a while. A lot of great combo wrestling, but it was mostly Romero offense. This was more of a NJPW style than it was a lucha match. And you probably know a little bit more than me, but I know enough about Romero and I know enough about how Gringo performs that I know that wasn't, Gringo versus ASF or Gringo versus Commander. This was definitely Rocky Romero's match.
Yes, and going to the first match tonight, it was Gringo Loco, who was supposed to go against Johnny Game Changer, but Johnny Game Changer, like the day of, seemed to, I don't know, back out or something happened where he wasn't able to wrestle, so they had to have a last-minute replacement, and it was one Rocky Romero, as you said, from New Japan Wrestling, and I thought that was an awesome replacement. Like you said, I am a pretty big fan of Rocky Romero. I don't think I've ever seen him in a GCW ring, so this might have been his debut, or maybe once or twice he's been in before. As far as memory goes on my end, I don't remember him being in a GCW ring. So seeing him go against Gringo Loco was, like, I thought perfect for both wrestlers, as Gringo will be a perfect base and has all his ring knowledge and experience that matches up with Rocky Romero. As we know, Rocky Romero is just like a legend, especially in New Japan, and being a U.S. ambassador for the New Japan Wrestling promotion. I thought it was a perfect stylistic matchup, and I enjoy this match. I kind of like how at the beginning, where they kind of go to shake hands, Gringo messes with Rocky at first, and then now Rocky starts to mess with Gringo and starts pulling his hand back as Gringo trying to shake it. I thought that was a cool little spot to kind of say, like, hey, I'm already playing the mind games on you. I am a veteran just like how you are. This was, like you said, more of a New Japan match, more than lucha, as we've seen from Gringo Loco. So it was kind of a nice stylistic change, in my opinion. I enjoy this match. Like I said, once I saw that it was Rocky taking Johnny Game Changer spot, like, I was like, okay, I kind of prefer Rocky over Johnny Game Changer. So I was kind of even more excited for this match, as we talked about before. We've never seen Gringo Loco really have a bad match.
Oh, hell no. And I will mention, since we're talking about how the match went, there was a spot where Gringo went to the top rope and he jumped, I believe he jumped backwards, or he jumped face forward towards the center of the ring and did a twist. But he jumped about half of the ring from one corner to the other corner, and he hit one hell of a top rope cutter on Rocky Romero.
Yeah, that Gringo cutter was impressive. He was, like you said, at the top rope, and he leaped halfway across the ring, and it was pretty funny because, like, when he leaped, as his feet leave the turnbuckle, Rocky Romero still has his back towards him, and he's, like, pretty much on the other side of the ring. So it was kind of perfect timing on Gringo's part, as well as Rocky turning in to the cutter. I thought that was, like, as you said, an awesome spot in the match. There was a lot of Hurricane Ranas, as one can expect from a Rocky Romero match and Gringo. But we got to see the innovative styles here. Like I said, their styles, I think, were a perfect clash. And it was a good showcase match for Gringo to a possibly New Japan audience that maybe might have tuned in once they saw Rocky Romero. And it was awesome seeing Rocky Romero go full on in and enjoying himself with the GCW crowd.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to say for sure I'd watch this one again. There was just so much talent. Both of them were capable of main eventing with another 5 minutes. I've said this before on another one, but with another 5 or 10 minutes, they easily could have carried the main event, and you give them another 5 to 10 minutes on top of that, and it would have been the type of match that we would have been talking about the next day.
Yeah, we were talking about on the last episode, we played our roles as Booker and how we would kind of format the matches and all that stuff. And
yeah,
this was one of these cards where I would change some of the spots of the matches and where they occurred on the card. And I know this was kind of a last minute change, I believe, as well, that was thrown onto GCW, because I know MLJ even showed up, like, literally he pulled up to the parking lot walked right in, went in and grabbed the mic and went right into the ring. Like he showed up at the very last second. I remember at the beginning of the match, he introduced both wrestlers and then he had to go right out to commentary. He's like, "What the hell is happening? I just got here." Like we're already having the first match of the night is Gringo versus Rocky. So his enthusiasm of that match opening, I thought, like I said, too, a very good way to open the night and introduce a little surprise to kind of get the intrigue going for the rest, how the rest of the night was going to turn out. And match placement, like I will have a couple issues later on. I'll quickly talk about it, but like I'm playing Booker. It's easy on my end to do it. I'm not the one actually there dealing with a million other things. But I just kind of want to call back to it because I know we talked about last episode, and this was one where I'm like, yeah, I would have scheduled the matches a little different, but it was still an awesome way to open up the show. Gringo Loco hits the Gringo bomb onto Rocky Romero and picks up the victory to start off the night.
So then I'm going to kind of go with the question just because I think that people who listen might have that question, but I wanted to make sure we pose it because I think it's important. But wouldn't Gringo Loco look a lot better if he had one, maybe two belts strapped on him? I think he comes out with the swagger. The music is awesome. He's one hell of a performer. He's a veteran. He could probably carry a division somewhere, if not carry a smaller company for sure. And I'm really curious, why doesn't Gringo have at least some belt from somewhere?
Yes, I agree. Like if we go back to our previous podcast, we talk about scramble belts. I think he would be one of the ones at the top of the discussion as a possible holder of a scramble belt if it was ever introduced, as he's not typically in scrambles or matches per se, but just because you're in one scramble match doesn't mean you're a scramble wrestler. You could still be the scramble champion while in a regular one-on-one showcase match going against a Rocky Romero, where just because you're the scramble belt doesn't mean it has to be defended every single time you're on a card, where this would be one of those perfect situations, in my opinion, where, hey, Gringo was the scramble champion. He was supposed to go against Johnny Game Changer. Something happened. So now you got Rocky Romero, and it would be a good way to showcase like the GCW talent as having a belt going against a New Japan star as in Rocky Romero. So yeah, I think it is pretty surprising because now we've seen him now venture more into AAA. I've seen him in lately. We've seen him in Wrestling Revolver more. He's like, branching out to different promotions other than strictly GCW. And I think given more time and the role that Gringo's been on, especially ever since his little feud with he had with Psycho Clown, I believe it was, or in that match where he came out all bloody and showed a different side of like, hey, this is Gringo Loco. If he turns heel, he's the badass. Like I could bleed. I'm not the high flyer, lovable person you guys see all the time. Like I have that in me where I have to bring that out of me against a Psycho Clown or a Dr. Wagner. I forgot who we went against, but it was like one of his showcase matches where it put his name, in my opinion, on the map, even at a higher level than what he's been performing as of recently.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of mention the whole thing with the belt too, because this was mostly recent. You know, we're recording this late because we're playing catch up from all the things that are going on. And I can see where, Brett discussed it, and I can see where his point was, look, we get the belt, but the problem is we might pigeonhole someone, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we can shuffle people around. And when I listened to his explanation, I understood it. When I listened to his points, I understood them and agreed with a fair amount of his points because I think it makes sense to listen to both sides. And I didn't 100% agree with him saying they may be pigeonholed. I do agree that somebody could be pigeonholed if you wanted to book them that way. I do think it may also be a way to push someone, and it may be a great way for someone to take that belt to another company and hold it high when they come from behind that curtain. I don't also own a company, so I don't really know what the ego's like. I don't know what the process is like. I don't know how much a belt costs. I know everything sounds perfect. Hey, let's throw straps on everyone. But I also understand from a business perspective, if he came to that conclusion after thinking about all the others, I'm sure if it was more profitable, I think that would really weigh heavily. I know more exciting makes sense because essentially that also means more profitable. but I'm sure he weighed both sides and just said, well, you know what? This for me doesn't make sense at this time. I think if things change a little bit, I think he'd be open to it based on the fact that he's one of those types of people that likes to give the fans what they want. And I think that if he found a window to put it in, he would. So I have to trust that he definitely knows more than me, but I might just be one of those fans that's really excited saying, hey, I just love to see it out there.
Exactly. I'm the same way. It's easy for me here. I'm sitting here spending other people's money and saying what I would do. That's very easy for me to stay on this end. And obviously, as you just said, it's just my opinion, as we've talked about the scramble belts and stuff like that. And it's just, this is all my opinion. I'm not saying my opinion is right. And if we don't get a scramble belt, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'm going to be, these shows are going to suck now. GCW is not going to be the same. Obviously, GCW's been doing just fine without my opinions on any of this stuff or without my input. And I know that Brett has gone through what he needs to go through, and he's heard the scramble belt many times as being pitched to him in Twitter spaces and on the GCW Patreon podcast and stuff like that. I just like, it's just easy to me spending other money. It's just like, as you said, it'd be a cool idea. And I think there could be a lot more done with it, but also he has been killing it lately. Obviously GCW's just fine without any of our inputs with this. So, but hence we have the reason we have a podcast is to discuss issues like this, and it doesn't have to be forced upon anybody. It doesn't have to be like, hey, our opinion's best. If you don't take it, then you're wrong. It's like, no, GCW's been killing it just fine without our opinions or my opinions. I think they'll be just fine without it as well.
Yeah, my thing was I just wanted to make sure I did a counterpoint for sure, because it only makes sense to see both sides. Anytime I'm thinking about my opinion that I'm going to try to share, even though poorly worded, I do try to think about them beforehand. So, you know, I try to put myself in his shoes. If he says no, there has to be a good reason, because I know right now most people would love to have a belt to accentuate a specific match or a specific group of wrestlers. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I counterpointed that, because those were some of the things I considered. Was that, you know, I don't know the egos involved. I don't know if maybe he's just using the scramble wrestlers as the guys who, those are the ones who show up that we don't have an initial booking for. And we go, well, hell, sometimes we have 5, sometimes we have 6 or 7. And I think that's fair too. Maybe it's just the appearance of some of the people that may be in there is so very sparse. We don't know when they'll show up next. Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of the things I thought of too. Was you know, I don't know the budget.
Yeah, we don't want to saturate. Like another point, I didn't even know. I don't know on his podcast he didn't make this point, but it's probably in the back of his head, because I know it's on the back of my head. Where there's a very good reason why there's not 15 different belts for all these different things. Like you don't want to saturate it, and every time you add a belt, it kind of takes away the importance of a belt you currently have in stock. Where I absolutely see that point, and I agree with it. I just would like to see more titles, especially since you already have 4 or 5 active ones at the moment. I would like to see, if there was wrestlers going to be there, them being able to put something on the line and add more intrigue to the matches. But as we've been seeing, Moxie's he's a champion. He hasn't been at GCW as often. Bussy has stepped up their game, and they have. I think they've like, hey, you don't have your world champion here, but you have us, and we're your tag champions, and you see us here every week, and we're going to be out here representing that GCW brand and making these matches feel more important because we're the tag team champions. And I know we were talking about the Extreme Belt and AJ Gray, how it's been kind of up in the air, and I'm very glad. I don't know if it caught on the podcast, but if we were talking about it or if it was off the podcast, but we see AJ Gray now being announced for, I believe, is it the Nashville show? Is it this weekend?
Don't quote me.
Okay.
But yeah, the quicker the better. Yes. To get him back to work. And question I had too was the UV and the Extreme. Don't you think they should maybe be put together to avoid oversaturation, and then take the missing UV or the Extreme, whichever one was replaced, and maybe then replace that and put that in there with the scramble? I know that. But that would also avoid saturation, give the people what they want, and be able to give some pushes somewhere, because one of those titles is primarily sitting dormant, and here goes your heavyweight that's sitting dormant. And again, I'm more Mr. Positivity, but I'm just looking at it that way right now. It's sitting semi-dormant. It is nice when the heavyweight champion does show up. No shitting on that. He's a family man and he's a fellow Ohioan, so I can't crap on that. But yeah, he's limited on when he can come and when he can't come. But I mean, a champion is a champion. Dude's over 6 foot something. There aren't a lot of challengers like that. I am an old school guy that I do believe sometimes that there needs to be some size, especially in your champion or your heavyweight champion. It doesn't always need to be that way. It just, I think, needs to be a majority of that. And I do think that there are some people out there that can hang at 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" with a 6'2", 6'4" guy. It relies on the booking. I've seen Mysterio matches booked well, and I've seen Mysterio matches good big boy and little guy booked horribly.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I talked about this on the first couple podcasts before you even showed up, so I didn't really have like anybody to go back and forth with and discuss it. But like I talked about where I think there's a redundancy with Ultraviolent and Extreme title, because we know the world title, like, hey, that's your main guy. That's the ace of the show right now. That's who's going to be on the marquee matches, get everything, and kind of help propel the brand to higher heights than what they are currently at. And like then you got like I don't want to call them mid carders, but then you got the other. I hate even calling it secondary belts, because sometimes we've seen, like I've seen in New Japan Wrestling, where when Shinsuke Nakamura was the Intercontinental title over in New Japan, where he brought more value as being that champion than the world champion did. But yeah, we have the world title, we have an Ultraviolent title, we have an Extreme title. I think the Ultraviolent and Extreme titles are kind of redundant, where what's the difference of matches when we watch an Ultraviolent match as if we watch a Extreme match? We kind of see the similar style matches in those two title matches per se. Like I know AJ Gray, when he's been Extreme title, he's been defending it a lot more in the scramble setting, and that's where I just kind of like, hey, if we already got like an Extreme and Ultraviolent, we kind of know what kind of match we're getting into when we watch these matches, and it's the death match wrestlers. I would kind of like to see that old Extreme title turned into the scramble belts, and then now that just opens up another venue and makes it a little bit more clear in my eyes to the fans as okay, we're getting an Ultraviolent match. I know what this match is going to be. It's going to be two crazy guys in a death match, or doing an Extreme style match where weapons and a whole bunch of fuckery will be involved. I know what I'm getting myself into with that. And then if you follow it up with an Extreme match, like, okay, what's the difference here? Where I think if you make that Extreme belt the scramble belt, where, hey, I know if the scramble belt's going to be defended tonight, it's going to be in a scramble match. But that, like you said, it doesn't have to be pigeonholed where the scramble person that holds the title has to be put in a scramble match every time, where it's like, hey, if I got Moxley defending the world title against Blake Christian, and then I got Team Bussy going up against SGC and Los Macisos defending the tag titles, I don't need to add another title match. I already have two where, hey, let me showcase our scramble wrestler and say, hey, this is why he's our champion. He could go against 5 other different competitors, or she, and they could go up against one-on-one in a showcase match and showcase their talents that way, where if you have the scramble champion lose, well, hey, this person beat the scramble champion. Maybe next time we see these two in a ring in a scramble match, that person has a chance to win. I just think it's a lot of different ways you could go about it, and it will make stuff making the Extreme title or Ultraviolent title, combine those into one and making a different scramble match. I think it would make it a lot clearer for us fans, knowing what to expect when we go to these shows and we see these wrestlers. And hey, I hear Effie's music. I know he's a tag holder right now. We're probably going to get a tag match. I hear AJ Gray's music. He's the Extreme title. He might be in an Extreme match this time. It just makes it clear for the fans, in my opinion. For the second match of the evening, we have Tony Deppen going one-on-one versus Commander. And I believe this is the first time seeing Commander in a one-on-one setting. He's had the scramble match, and I believe he had a trios tag match. And now this is our first time kind of seeing what Commander has going in the one-on-one setting. So, John, what was your opinion on this match?
Well, it was almost 12 minutes long, and I don't mean long by any sense. It was really a quick match. These guys were just moving so damn quick. I mean, when it comes to high spots, I was trying to write, and then I damn near gave up because there were just so many. I really thought that Emma was kind of he was echoing what I was talking about a couple of podcasts ago, where I was talking about how Tony is the measuring stick. He's the benchmark, the gatekeeper. Those are literally the words that Emil had used. I liked how KG kind of gets in there and gets involved. Tony pulled a middle finger from his trunks at one point and was kind of flipping off everybody. And I thought it was KG, that KG kind of said, well, he pulled that from underneath his balls, and that makes it way worse.
Yes, he dug deep for that middle finger.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool. And at some point, we've already kind of spoken about it a little bit, but Commander's really getting accepted by the fans.
Yes, and with his high flying style, it's very hard to kind of not enjoy it because, like, I've never seen anyone walk across the ropes like how he does, and I know he does it this match. I'll talk about here in a minute, but like we've seen Commander do some things that like is not just super impressive. I've never seen done before. That's how impressive it was. So, I really like this.
You've been watching for how long, man?
Well,
you've been watching since what year?
Wrestling. I've been watching wrestling pretty much since I was born. Like one of the like my earliest, my mom, like even when I was like 1, she said I was like rolling around playing with wrestling figures and had the Hulk and Macho Man or Ultimate Warrior, my little wrestling buddies, and I was tossing those things around since I've been a kid. So it's been 36 years since I've seen somebody walk the ropes as Commander.
So then I'm clocking in right around what you have in years, and no shit, between the both of us, and we're talking almost 70 years of experience, never seen a man run so quick on the ropes ever. Then walk backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, literally walk backwards and then do a backflip off of there onto the floor with Tony. That was just incredible. His top rope offenses, I mean, sometimes I'm counting anywhere between 5 and 10 specific moves off the top rope per match. And he has tremendous balance.
Yeah.
Tremendous balance.
And for him to be able to pull it off as many times as he has without slipping off the ring, like the balance to walk across the ropes. And as you said, like in this match, he had to stop himself on the other turnbuckle because Tony Deppen, being the KG veteran that he is, he knows what Commander's planning on doing. He stopped midway. It's like, yep, you're not jumping on me, Commander. You're not doing that. I'm going to walk where you just came from. So you can't stop on a dime and hit me. You're going to have to take some time to get yourself into position to get me. And Commander proved Tony wrong. He ran across the ropes. Tony walked the opposite way. Commander saw that. He then catches himself, stops on a dime, takes a couple steps backwards, and jumps off the top rope and still attacks Tony from the outside, which was pretty incredible seeing. And I like how that match started. It was pretty fun seeing Tony Deppen kind of like, hey, crowd, move out of the way here. This is my show. I'm going to stand up on your chairs and show you that this is my crowd. And as he's doing that, he's actually telling the crowd to back up because as he's about to stand up, he realizes, oh, Commander's not waiting for the bell to start. And Commander has already gone off the top rope and jumped and attacked Tony to start off the match, which I thought was an awesome and creative way to kind of get the crowd moving. That just shows Tony's experience and like how much control he knows he has over the crowd, where he could sit there and even though he's setting the spot up for Commander, you don't tell it from that spot. It makes it look like, hey, get out of the way. This is my area. I'm going to stand up on your chairs and show everybody the greatness that is Tony Deppen. But it got everyone out of the way of the splash. So I thought that was a cool little incident during this match. And I also liked where Commander, he got to show off a lot of ground game, which was perfect as Tony Deppen was his opponent, which is he can excel at the ground game. And how fast Commander, there was like one spot where I think he did 6 different moves of chain wrestling to get into a submission or pin spot, where I was like, I did not see that in Commander's arsenal. I never knew he could do that. And that was a nice little surprise to me. And I think that's kind of the awesomeness of GCW, whereas, hey, we know Commander has this in his bag, but we're not going to show it to you yet. We're going to tease you. We're going to give you the high flying stuff that you know about him and what made him famous. But now we got him one-on-one for a third show. We're going to let him demonstrate what he can and can't do in the wrestling ring.
And, you know, he's one of these guys where, because we were talking about, you know, a little bit off the record here about Commander, and maybe he would be the one that if there was a scramble title, maybe Commander would be the one to do it. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching Tony, and I might even march back my words a little bit. I honestly think he may be a touch too much, too fast for a scramble, where if we had 6 guys like him, it would just be so much chaos that it might even be too much. And he's so busy. He's enough for one guy.
Yeah.
I do want to say that now, because I was thinking, what if we put Commander a belt on him off and on. We'll just make him the majority winner 2 months, 4 months. And I'm like, well, shit, he's damn near ready, if not ready. I mean, he's 23 years old, and he's just so young, and he has a long way to go. And you still see that every now and then he'll take a misstep, but those are drowned out so fast by the high spots that he has.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you mess up one move after the 100 high spots you did, and could be a simple slip on a real easy move. It's going to happen. I'm more impressed with how he doesn't slip on these major spots that he does, and he always connects and hits it. Like, that's more impressive to me than, hey, I slipped up on one little spot where my hand slipped off my opponent where I couldn't grab him, or I didn't connect with that kick as fully as I could have. Like, I will take one bad spot if you give me 99 other spots that are perfect. And like, this match was one of them where I didn't even notice like any really hiccups. Like, maybe you caught it here or there, but I think they played it off so perfectly. And with commentary, I think that's where KG kind of excels on commentary, where he won't sit there and call out the slip up. He will explain why the slip up happened, what happened maybe earlier in the match that made the slip up happen now. I just love how they kind of go over anything that possibly could have gone wrong, and they turn it into a more realistic, like, hey, this is why it happened, and explain it where that way, like, oh, okay, yeah, he messed up, I could see that happening. And it plays into great storytelling, whereas you don't have to say he messed up. It just turns into, hey, Tony worked Commander's leg this entire time, and that's why maybe he slipped off the rope, or his leg gave out while trying to run across it. Like, I just think it's awesome commentary and awesome on Tony Deppin's part as well as Commander's to kind of like, hey, I fell, I slipped, I hurt myself. I just think how they roll with it. And like, I love it when the crowd doesn't even acknowledge the slip ups, because as you said, sometimes like it's annoying where, hey, they just put on a 20-minute classic and you're worried about one move that was inconsequential to anything going on. It's like, we got to be more appreciative as fans to appreciate the positive instead of dwell on the negative.
Well, the one thing that I forgot to mention from the get-go, and I know it kind of helps paint the picture as we were talking about this story, was that when Commander started this match, quote unquote, started it with that dive to the outside on Tony, he hurt Tony's leg a little. I mean, before this bell even rang, you could see that Tony was affected by the dive. I didn't sit there and watch the mechanics of it, or I'd be able to explain it a little more, but you could see it hurt him a little bit. And, it just kind of changed his demeanor, because when he first came out, he's doing the heat, he's doing the heel thing, and you could tell he's having fun. He's still got the smile on him a little bit. And Tony always goes to the serious Tony at some point during the match. I love it. The ultra heel guy who really does finally bring out the bad side. But I had to mention that, and I almost forgot to mention it. Also, because of the having fun while he's also doing the heat, we ended up getting "fuck you, Tony" and "let's go, Tony" chants back and forth the whole time. So that was really fun. And the last thing I wanted to mention on my end was the fact that I mentioned the pendulums a while back. We talked about this off recording a little, but now that I mentioned it, for some reason, for the last 4 shows, there's been pendulums.
Yes.
Sometimes 2 a show one time. So I don't know what's going on with that, man.
They're listening. Gosh. We're starting to get a little influence. No. Oh, I know. Just kidding.
Please, no.
No, it's funny. Like, it was funny timing. It was like right after you mentioned the pendulum, I think I went and watched the show. Like, that happened that night while I was editing. And I was like, I just saw 2 pendulums. Like, and I don't really see that often. And we were just talking about it. So it was pretty fun seeing, was it Commander that had Tony? No, Tony Deppin had Commander in the pendulum, I believe, in this match.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a great match and great clash of styles, as you have the high flyer and Commander going against Tony Deppin, who wants the groundwork, but then you also got to see Commander and his prowess that he has in the technical realm. It was kind of nice seeing him display that he's not just a high flyer that does the one rope spot. He is a all-around wrestler, and I think the more chances he gets to showcase it and prove it in the ring, I think we'll have a better understanding and a better appreciation of Commander as his tenure in GCW keeps on going. Match 3 of the evening at No Signal in the Hills 2. We have the Sauce God, Alex Zane, going 1-on-1 versus the Future franchise and Titus Alexander. And John, what were your opinions on this match?
Well, right off the bat, it was nice seeing Alex Zane, considering the fact that his trajectory is going upward. He's doing a lot of work in Japan right now. It was really nice to see him go from the larger halls down to the smaller GCW halls right now. It's one of those things I'd like to see a lot of performers do, which means I'd like to see them succeed and then make sure that they don't forget their roots, almost like Moxley does. So I'd like to really see that more or less. He just recently changed to that red and mint colored gear. I really think it's cool because I don't know if I've ever seen another wrestler change to an overall red and mint color as their overall thing. So I remember that Titus got a lot of boos. The minute he opened that building, he got into that building, man, it was just boo the whole time. I think he's an excellent heel. We'll probably get into that a little more here soon. But overall, it was a really fast-paced match.
Yes, as you said, I like seeing Zayn, and it's like, as you said, the upward trajectory, because he started off, well, not started off, but like when I first saw him in GCW, and he was killing it, having the crazy matches with Blake Christian at the Ukrainian Cultural Center where they're at that evening. And they've had like matches where they take off the top rope to show like, hey, I'm going to take away your offense. We're like, I don't need a top rope. I can do everything I can off the second rope. So I love seeing how he went from that GCW. Then, of course, we know he left. And then, he came back and he seemed to kind of just continue on where he was when he came back. So it kind of seemed like he got a little complacent when he came back to GCW, in my opinion. But around the same time, as you said, he changed his gear into the red and mint colored gear, was around Hammerstein. And I believe that's where he kind of changed his whole character up, or instead of just being the sauce god, Alex Zane is someone who likes Taco Bell. He like upped his game, in my opinion, especially in his presentation with the red robe, the flashy red colors with that cool mint peeling off, and he dyed his hair red. I love seeing the Diablo sauce, Alex Zane. And I like how you said, like when he's in Japan, I think he upped his game big time. And now that he's with Japan, I don't feel like he's like as complacent as I thought he was. Like when he came back, I think he upped his game to a whole nother level since he's been back, which is nice seeing the character progression as well. And as you said, Titus came out to the booze. Yeah, I love how he just comes out and right away he's like, why am I here to perform in front of you guys? You guys are not worthy of my presence. I love that.
Waste of time.
Yeah, Tony Deppin's more vocal about his displeasure for the fans and like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna take your hat, I'm gonna flip you off. I just love how Titus is kind of the opposite, as he just comes out and just has the disdain look on his face. We're like, why are you guys booing me? Do you guys not know who I am? You not know who my dad is with the ugly dojo? Do you not know like I was meant to do this stuff and I will do it and prove it to you guys? I love that kind of heel where he on the moveset kind of end of it, he has more of a face heel moveset or face moveset instead of a heel moveset. He's a little bit high flyer and stuff. But I love how he knows he's that good where he's going to tease the fans. Like he'll give the fans one high flying spot and then like he'll tease a second one, but then he'll take that enjoyment away from the fans. And like how in this match he was going to toss Alex Zane into the 10th row, he said, and then he moved everybody to get out of the way, he made everybody move, and then he's like, nah, forget you all, I'm just going to roll him back in the ring, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. So I love seeing, I thought this was absolutely another great booking match of great styles in Alex Zane, as he's, like I said, he's improving his skills, and Titus Alexander is still young, still showing like his growth into the sport. But I think as we say, these young, quote unquote, young pillars, I believe he should be in one of them, because he absolutely has the look at this young age. I believe he has the look of a nice cocky and brash heel, and he plays that character to a T and doesn't ever break, doesn't ever smile or give the fans what they want. He just stays in that heel character 24/7 in the wrestling, in his wrestling venue that he's at. And like this match, they did a cool spot where I know Titus like was Alex Zane was going to throw Titus outside. Alex Zane ended up getting tossed outside by Alex, and like immediately before Alex Zane could even recover, Alex did like the suicide dive through the middle ropes. And I love Zane's reaction as like as you have it here in your notes, so like pushed them 3 rows back in the chairs. I just love seeing Alex Zane, like he's like recovering, but he's like, what the fuck? this kid's the real deal. Like, what am I getting myself into? I might have overlooked him. And I think that's kind of what Titus has going on to a plus side of his character and his moveset. And as he continues to grow as a performer and wrestler, I think he has that as something he could always fall back on as he progresses in the wrestling career.
Yeah, he's really young. I can't remember. It's really hard to find an age on him. I believe he's somewhere around 20 or 21. Only 4 years in pro wrestling. But his first match was at 6 years old. He's a second generation wrestler. You know, just freaking impressive from front and back so far. He can shoot a look, that heel look that has that disdain. You know, someone says something from the crowd, he can just look at him, and some of the weaker people will kind of shy off after that. You know, he does have that. There's not a chiseled, but he has that round look that you want to see out of the muscles on a lot of the more higher up wrestlers. He has I don't know if he has WWE ready, but he has close to that WWE style look that they would want out of a wrestler. Great. Here launched himself outside the ring. The only thing I wanted to say was I wrote down here on my personal notes that he shot like a missile. It just looked like a missile came across the screen when he popped Alex with that. He hit a handspring, the H Crusher on Zayn. That was impressive. Hitting the Chaos Theory into a suplex on Zayn. Highly impressive. This was a lot of Alex Zayn being showcased. I'm sorry, it was more of Titus Alexander being showcased. Alex Zayn, it was just damn nice to see him there. I think Alex Zayn called the match on this one. I'm pretty sure he
probably took the lead for sure.
But I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about that, except for we talked about this earlier. I'll only hit on it once. I really do think Titus Alexander is the asshole spoiler type heel that GCW needs. And if they find themselves going deeper into storylines and adding storylines down the road, he would be a great person that would come in and spoil. And he would be the one that people would boo. He's not a lovable heel. He's not a lovable heel without. I'm trying to keep my mouth clean, but he's an FU kind of heel, man.
Yeah,
nobody likes him.
We've seen it like with Tony Deppen. As doesn't matter what he does, as even in this match, everybody hates him, flipping him off. They're following him down after he makes his entrance, flipping him off, and he still gets the chant of "Let's go, Tony! Fuck you, Tony!" Like he still has that love for it. Whereas in Alexander, every match I've seen him in, even in other promotions. Mm-hmm. As impressive as he looks and as he is, I'm actually always surprised he never gets the crowd really behind him. He does a little bit, I guess, in the next show that we cover, the next podcast. So with his match against Jordan, he does get a little bit more love in the San Francisco crowd than he did in this LA crowd. But every time I've seen Titus, like he's always hated, and I love like his interactions with the referee tends to play off of the heel status too, because I know every time I've seen him in the ring, it seems to always be with Scarlett as the referee, and him and Scarlett always just go at it, as in Scarlett's trying to keep order in the ring, and Titus like, "Get off of me, don't you dare touch me," kind of thing. And I love how Scarlett stands right back in his face, is like, "You don't touch me, I'm the authority, not you. Like, I don't care who you are." So I think that also lends to his heelish tactics and why he doesn't really get over too well with the fans, even though Tony Deppen as a heel gets over with the fans. But I think I think Titus Alexander gets over with the fans as, "Hey, I don't need your approval. I don't want it, and don't give it to me." And he hasn't gotten it from the fans, but I think the more we see of Alexander, I think it's going to become a little bit harder to hate as we start to see more of him, unless he continues to evolve and find different ways to keep the crowd against him.
Yeah, the better that's one of the things with wrestling that's happening now that wasn't happening, say, let's just go 40, 30 years ago, was when Stone Cold came in, he kind of kicked the door open for that guy who's a massive asshole that everybody wants to cheer, because he looks lovable and he's a wrecking ball. And if there's anything anybody wants to see, that's a hero with a big fist.
Yep.
And I just want to see, and I don't want to jump this one, but the way MJF is cheered for being a dick, I think is going to be the same thing Titus Alexander may get one day. As long as he stays the guy who spoils the storyline or the guy who screws up the match because he interferes, he's going to be able to keep that role. And people may stay off of him when it comes to, being a likable heel. But I think that as time goes on, maybe 10, 20 years from now, he's going to gain respect for being an asshole. And I think it might get to a point to where here's the thing. I think he's so good at it that we're trying to find a way for him not to be cheered. How
Yes.
about
And see, I kind of like, as you're saying that whole thing, I go back to like kind of it's been played out before in other promotions, not GCW per se, but with Titus Alexander being quote unquote the future franchise, I believe, like I said, he's more ready for a call up to the big leagues or a bigger promotion. And I could see a possible angle here with GCW that they could kind of roll with me playing Booker here again, Nick Wayne as the one that's getting all the hype, all the talk, all the promotion by the big company. He got signed by AEW, where I think as it gets closer to Nick Wayne's kind of not end on the indies, but as he kind of moves on to greener pastures, as they say, I believe it would be a nice way, as long as Titus Alexander doesn't get picked up by any of these bigger franchises and gets this moment taken from him, as a booker, as I like to always kind of play as, I could see as like maybe as Nick Wayne's like send off, where he gets like the proper send off. The crowd is all loving him. Like, hey, we'll see you here in a couple months. Hopefully, when you come back to the Indies, go kill it in AEW. Where I could see Titus Alexander coming in and just destroying Nick Wayne and getting major heat, having the crowd absolutely hate him, and like you have it built in there. It's like, that's me. I'm the one that's supposed to be going to AEW. You're just taking that spot away from me. I'm the one that has the look. I'm the one who has the attitude. I'm the one who's performance ready for the big leagues, not you. And you're being a couple years younger than me. You're still in my spot. So I kind of see that in the future as a nice little way to kind of step up the heel and take it to another level and get the nuclear heat that, as you said, MJF kind of has.
Yeah, I want to see that get to that point. I really do feel that, I mean, I could see Titus going straight into Impact and having a long career there for a year or two and just polishing up, because I think all he needs is experience. I think he has the intelligence. I think he has the look. I think he has the ability. He's got the facial expressions down. He knows how to keep his chin, 10, 15, 20 degrees above horizon. So he looks like he's looking down at people. All those things take either they're natural or he's done a lot of homework on some great heels. And I haven't had a chance to listen to any interviews, but I would love to see where he's getting his character from. And I'd like to see how much of that he's incorporated into who he is. And I'd like to see where there may be a line. And I know if he's doing an interview, I'm wondering if we're going to even get real him versus him kayfabe, because he seems like a kayfabe guy, and I could appreciate that.
Yes, and I think that's kind of what a lot of people like with, as you said, MJF. Like, doesn't matter where he's at. He's him 24/7, and you can never tell if he's blurring the lines or if that's just how he is, and he just is that good of being an asshole to everybody. So going back to the end of this match, we had, unfortunately, after all this talk about Titus Alexander, he does take the defeat here as Alex Zane ends up hitting him with the taco driver. And I liked how they had the struggle. They played a lot of struggle to get that taco driver in, and I like kind of how they we like got that in motion near the end of the match, where, hey, we're going to tease the taco driver, we're going to tease it, and here it is. Alex Zane finally gets it, and Alex Zane hits the taco driver and defeats Titus Alexander. For the fourth matchup of the evening, we have the Graveheart, Blake Christian, going one-on-one against Starboy Charlie. And I thought this was a very exciting matchup, as we have Blake Christian keep on his winning ways as he goes for Jon Moxley's GCW world title. And I thought it was a very good stylistic matchup coming against Starboy Charlie, who's still kind of returning from his injury, even though he's had a couple matches since breaking his leg. He's still, as of right now, showing no ill effects of that broken leg, and I thought this was going to be a very fun match. And before this match started off, we have a surprise, as Lio Rush makes his GCW return. And this is where my fear of missing out started, was at this moment, because I am a giant Lio Rush fan. And here's the honest truth. He was the reason I went to my first GCW show, where he was announced on the card, and I'm a giant fan of Lio Rush. And I was like, oh my God, I watched GCW on that Fight Forever. I kind of know like they're pretty good wrestling. I kind of like their production and some of those wrestlers. Like, here we go, check out. Let's see what this GCW is all about. And Leo Rush is the reason for that. And so him making his return in LA at a show that I made the choice of not to going and going against the wishes of my wife is where I get to suffer these consequences of not going. And yeah, so Leo just comes out, his music plays, the fans like him. I know on the cameras on the Fight TV feed, a lot of he got like some people booing him and stuff, and that goes back to kind of the LA crowd I was talking about before, where those were the fans that are always begging and wanting some deathmatch wrestling. So I know them getting a surprise return of Leo Rush was not exciting to them, but it was exciting to fans like me, who is a big Leo Rush fan. And even though Leo Rush did not wrestle this match, I was kind of hoping he would. This is where I was kind of like, oh, maybe he's going to find some way to insert himself into the John Moxley title picture with Blake Christian, as Leo Rush and Blake Christian have a very storied past in GCW ring. Unfortunately, we did not get any action from Leo. He just hopped on commentary and provided a lot of commentary on that, but he was just kind of there as letting Blake, hey, no, I see that you got a big match coming up. Let's see if this is the new Graveheart, if this is everything that I saw when I was going against you, and see if this is your chance to prove that you're ready for the world title match against Moxley. So I was excited with Leo Rush showing up even in the commentary capacity that he did. What were your thoughts on this match, John?
I think that Starboy was a little more well received than I expected, but overall, both Blake and Starboy were getting equal cheers. You know, on the entrances they got equal cheers. I guess this was down the middle. I really thought this was going to be more Starboy. I think Blake would have wished this was more Blake, especially during this run that he has going on. He's trying to kind of, you know, take this uphill trek. I really do feel that people are listening, but I'm not really feeling people, or at least at this show, was behind him as much as I think he would have hoped. He did talk about the fact that he does want to bring that belt back and have that belt being defended every show, or at least every show that you can. That's a hell of a lot more than once every 6.
Yes.
And I think that makes a great sense. I mean, that makes great sense. I think a lot of fans understand that. But he also got a little bit of heat for using Moxley's moves. He got booed for that a little bit. So I thought that was really interesting. The match went outside of the ring once Blake had a dive. But otherwise, the match really stayed in ring, really fast paced. It was absolutely wonderful to watch between those two.
Yes. And like I said, these two styles I was kind of interested in, as Blake is, I think Starboy was a perfect opponent for Blake, as you said, with his kind of trajectory that he's going towards the belts. You would kind of like to see, especially even though it's Starboy Charlie, like as we find out near the end, like Blake respects Starboy and wants him to change his name to Starman. I believe, as a kind of thinking about it, like you would think that Blake would kind of show more dominance and like,
oh yeah,
show his like, hey, this I'm about to go against Moxley. You're going to put a Star Boy in front of me. Like, here's how I'm going to treat your Star Boy and kind of help improve my name going towards the GCW belt. I thought, like as you said, I thought there would be more dominance shown by Blake Christian, but Starboy plays a perfect role, as we kind of go back to like the conversation we had the other day with Cole Radrick, whereas like they're always in a better spot, I believe, as chasing and trying to like get the words eluded me right now.
He's just trying to get everyone behind him. He's that lovable person. They always want to see that uphill climb, for lack of a better word. Yes. And once he's at the top, it's just one of those things where, hey, it's wonderful, he's there. But if he doesn't have some type of an adversary bigger than him, it's really hard to. He's better as the David over the Goliath.
Yes, and that's like how you said perfectly. Like he needs the fans behind him, and he plays that role way better. And this weekend, as well as his match, the next event at the GCW's Back to the Bay, where he went against Joey Janela, we see more of the upward trajectory Starboy seems to have had. And I thought this weekend was a good way of showcasing Starboy, especially in his return, of what is coming up in his future as well. And I love this match. I thought this probably, in my opinion, maybe the second best match of the night. But it was up there, and I expected it to be a good match. I just expected, as you said, I thought this would be more of Blake just showing his dominance. But once Lio Rush came out, I had a feeling like maybe he's going to insert himself into this somehow, some way. But the match happened.
I thought there was going to be some interference, man. I really thought there was going to be some interference. Yep. I really thought there was going to be a heel Leo, and he was going to come out there, and at some point he was going to jump off that microphone. Hey guys, I got something to say. And then boom, out there. And maybe just before Blake wins, nice little interference there. And then that builds this future thing to where it doesn't matter what Blake does, whether he wins or loses that belt, he's still got to deal with Leo. And I kind of like that idea. But you're right about the match. I will say here, it was almost 15 minutes long. I really think for the amount of anger that Blake Christian has, and for the amount of build that he should have for this all-star, I mean, not an all-star, but a great match against a man who has been damn near everywhere. I think that this should have been, who cares what I think sometimes,
like
but
I
let's
said,
just
we're playing
say,
Booker.
Yeah. We're playing with someone else's toys. 7 to 8 minutes, maybe half this time. You could have had a match and it still looked very strong. At the same time, I know it seems that this is the first of 2 times where they're going to put over Starboy as Starman. Janela's going to do it at the show 2 nights down the road here. So I just wanted to mention that, and I really do think that both of them have a great future ahead. I just think that Blake Christian maybe a little while, and I don't think this run is going to be his just yet. I do believe that he's another one where, even though he's not young, he's still growing into his body, and he'll be in a much better condition strength-wise to be able to come up against a guy who may be 4 to 6 inches taller than him and maybe 2 to 4 inches wider than him.
Yeah, I think just going off the visual presentation of Blake Christian going against Moxley, there's something that's, in my opinion, is like not quite there yet for title picture, but Blake Christian, obviously, if we just went off looks alone, like his in-ring style is amazing. He absolutely kills it in the ring. Like, I know I kind of always talk about his promos and how he kind of repeats himself, and he's always calling out people outside of GCW, where there's still people like Starboy Charlie that night where he hasn't wrestled and proven himself to be the next person, in my opinion, to be the one that goes after the GCW belt. And as we've been kind of saying it, bring it back home and having to defend it all the time. I think he's there, but he's not quite there yet, but he's not far from it. And as you said, the crowd was kind of, during the promo afterwards, kind of turning on him a little bit, saying like, hey, we don't want you doing all this Moxley stuff. You don't need to be Moxley. Just do your own thing. Don't sit there and try to like cater towards us and try to say like, do the Moxley mannerisms. We know who Moxley is. We know who you want. Yeah. Like, show us why we need to get behind you instead of Moxley. And that's what I took away from the promo at the end. I went right over the ending where Blake Christian does get the victory. He does hit the grave stomp on Starboy. I'm calling it the grave stomp. I don't even know what they call that. Just I always call it the grave stomp now. And
I like it.
Yeah, and I loved how the crowd was absolutely behind Starboy Charlie. He's been through a couple rough events, his last few events over at the Ukrainian Cultural Center. I know the last few times he's been there, he's had a little run-ins with the South Pacific Savages and Juicy Banao and Jacob Fatu. And that's kind of where when he was recovering from his leg injury, I know they attacked that there. So it's kind of nice seeing the LA crowd remembering those times and tribulations that Starboy has been through in front of that LA crowd. And it was kind of nice seeing them, hey, we've been here through you getting beat up in front of your mom and having your leg smashed during recovery. It was kind of nice seeing them giving the love back to Starboy Charlie in that event. And as you said, I found it kind of surprising. I think they were way more behind Starboy than they were Blake Christian as the match went on.
Yeah, I think that Starboy's going to be the one who's going to be getting a push. Like I said, I don't want to go too far ahead, but the next show, I think at this point, being that most people know what's going on, at the next show, he's going to have quite a lengthy match with Joey Janela. So what's going on here are one of two things. Either number one, we're going to see Starboy get pushed much higher because we have these veterans pushing him higher. I wouldn't, Blake a veteran. I can't say that, but he's not a new guy.
Yeah.
Or if they don't push Starboy at this point, that might make Blake Christian and Janela look a little weaker than they should. But what I'm seeing here is if Blake takes 15 minutes on Starboy, I don't really know if he wants to bite off more than he can chew with Gargano, with Moxley, because I try to stay positive, but he's going to get bent over.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, if he can't take Starboy at 165 and 5'8", he's going to have a real hard time with 215, 225 and 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, I was curious about that. So I know that this is what's going on today. I don't know how the story ends. So there's a lot more here to know. I'm just saying what I expect with someone else's toys I'm playing with. So
yeah, and I think they had like bigger ideas before Starboy Charlie got hurt when he broke his leg. I think they were at the point where they were about to have him in a match against the South Pacific Savages, and since he's been beat up and all that time leading up to that point, then the injury happened, so it kind of like made everyone kind of forget about that kind of storyline. And then since Starboy's been back, he's been putting on kind of these one-on-one singles matches, and I think they do have some big things for Starboy. And it's very hard to root against Starboy because he has the lovable look, like, hey, I'm just here, I love wrestling. I don't want to say he kind of looks like a fan, but like his body shape, but he's going to grow into it, and he's already kind of gotten bigger since he's been back body wise, as in more muscle mass and stuff like that. But he just looks like, hey, I'm love wrestling, I'm talented enough to try wrestling, let me do it. And he's killing it, and I think he's got bigger and brighter future as well in the possibly near future if his trajectory of the way they've been booking him lately comes to fruition.
So my little thought here is, do you remember the Nintendo game where there was wrestling and there was Starman?
Yep.
I wonder, just for shits and giggles, I don't know anything and I'm just guessing, what if that son of a bitch, he's already got the colors if you look at his type. What if that son of a bitch comes out in a full-on outfit and he's fucking Starman? I'm not kidding. Maybe I'm the first one to say it. I would love to see it, though.
I can see him coming out with the mask and getting the little pop, nostalgia pop of us older fans of knowing who a Starboy, the wrestler, is, and Starman from the old Nintendo games. I could see him getting that rub.
Yeah, he'd look like a Power Ranger.
Yes. But I love too, like how Blake at the end, like, hey, this was like, he kind of calls back, like, I thought maybe this would be easier too, but this son of a bitch here, he ain't no star boy. Get rid of that name. You are a star man. Like, you proved it tonight. And I kind of like how we were talking about, like, how this match we thought was going to be shorter. That kind of explained why it wasn't longer. Maybe even Blake Christian came in, thought he was going to mow right over Starboy, but then Starman ended up showing up instead of Starboy and caught Blake Christian off guard, and that's why Blake couldn't finish him as much. So I kind of like how they kind of saved themselves with that stuff and that promo at the end with Blake Christian. He acknowledges Leo's in the crowd. Leo stands up, and like I remember he goes like, hold on, I gotta hear what he has to say. I need to hear this better, and took off his headphones. And I'm interested because Leo Rush and Blake Christian have had some crazy GCW matches. They are one of the ones that stand out to me most when I talk about GCW wrestling. Like Leo Rush going against Blake Christian was awesome. Like when I'm trying to showcase GCW, like everyone thinks, oh, deathmatch. Like, no. Here's what two wrestlers could do with no weapons involved. Like GCW is not deathmatch only. Like, yes, they are probably one of the leaders in the world of death matches. They're not just strictly death matches. Here's what you could see if you're not a deathmatch wrestling fan in GCW. I show them the Leo Rush versus Blake Christian. A couple different times they fought against each other. I show them Leo Rush against Jordan Oliver because I think that's one of my favorite matches of Jordan Oliver's careers, going against Leo Rush at I believe it was Spring Break even. after he just won the.
Oh, that was a crazy match.
Yeah, and
No shit.
I just love Leo Rush, and him returning was a good thing for me. And then as the match went on, and Blake Christian, I was like, my mind got going of, oh, is he going to interfere in the match, like how you said, which he never did. You would think he'd get on the mic and talk back to Blake, which he never did. He's just kind of there, like, hey, I'm back in GCW. I might not be wrestling now, but I got my eyes on who I want to go after. And Blake, me and you got some unfinished business we need to settle. So I'm interested to see, even though it's not going to happen now before the Friday night show, I'm wondering if Leo Rush makes an appearance at GCW versus the People. In the fifth match of the evening, we have tag team action as Los Macizos, Ciclope and Medio Extremo go against Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne. And this, in my opinion, not even just being Jordan Oliver fan and Nick Wayne fan and a Los Macizos fan, I've been all over them since they've been back. This, in my opinion, was the match of the night. It was the match I was looking forward to the most, as it has two of my favorite tag teams. And I just was interested in how it would turn out. I didn't think it would turn out near as good as it did. But like I said, for me, this was my match of the night. John, what was your thoughts on this match?
100%. It was definitely an exciting match. I need to look back through, but I would say it's definitely a match of the night contender. Absolutely wonderful. Right off the bat, Los Macizos came out and they were dressed in the purple and gold Lakers colors.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't know who was going to be the heel and who was going to be the face because they were up against Oliver and Wayne. But, you know, when they're coming out draped in the Lakers colors, I kind of thought, all right, these guys are trying to, they're trying to have their night. So then here comes Oliver and Wayne. They come out together. They look great as a team. It's really nice to see the future walk out together. Really, if neither of them could go anywhere, I'm not going to complain. But the match started, and you had Oliver and Wayne doing double springboards into double topes, then double tope con heels. And even that, I'm a big fan of double moves. And they were just completely in sync.
Yes, like every time we've seen Oliver and Nick Wayne in a tag team, we've seen them evolve and get better and better. And it's been a fast rise, in my opinion, of how well they've meshed. And as you said, they were in sync. Like that, this match was the most I've ever seen. Not just them, but even like, let's call back some of these great brothers tag teams and the Hardy Boys and the Young Bucks, or any other tag team you want to put that's been working years and years and years. These two were just kind of thrown together in these last few months as a tag team, but I think they've taken that ball and they have rolled with it. And like I said, they throw the punches. They're both lefties. They are both almost the same size and height. Jordan's a little bit bigger mass wise than Nick Wayne, but speed wise, like you said, that opening spot where they did the double handstand and kicked the Macizos out the ring, they were both in sync there. They both hit the ropes and jumped out at the exact same time. Their bodies were in the exact same positions as they hit the springboards. Like they were just in motion and in sync the entire time. And I just think as those two get, I don't know how they want to be labeled, if they want to be a tag team or whatnot, but I just know when they are a tag team, they just are so in sync and move it with such fluidity where it's just so exciting to watch them go. And like they are acting like they've been a tag team for years now, where it's been a couple months and you see the tag team maneuvers they have done and using each other as like I know Jordan does the little, like he leaps off Nick Wayne's back and has the guy in like a little pedigree position and ends up hitting him with the pedigree after getting the extra height, jumping off Nick Wayne. And you see like Nick Wayne do a top rope move, and as he's doing that, Jordan's hitting the other guy out of the ring to create that opening for Nick Wayne to possibly get the finish. Like I just love seeing their tag team moves and how well they have meshed together as a tag team. I want to see more of it. And be it this match against Ciclope and Medio Extremo, I was kind of like, this is where I was kind of like, I don't know how well this match is going to be, even though I'm excited to see it. I just wouldn't know with Los Macizos being the deathmatch lucha or the extrema lucha that they do. I was kind of interested to see how they would do in a more tag team setting with a more natural tag team, even though we see them against Bussy and SGC and stuff like that, those still get a little bit more hardcore. And you did see that during this match. They do pull out a table, they do pull out some chairs, and they do awesome moves and spots with that. Like one of the highlights of this match for me is, I believe, Jordan hits Ciclope with the move in the ring, and then as he hit it, Nick Wayne dives to the outside onto Mito Extremo and tries to hold him on the outside as Jordan gets the cover, and it becomes a near fall, and you just see Jordan with the look of shock, like, what? He kicked out of that? And then the camera cuts to Nick Wayne on the outside, and Nick Wayne's just kind of like recovering, has his hand and face on the ring apron, and it's like, what did you do? What do you mean it's only 2? Like, his look of exasperation, like, what do you mean you didn't finish that, Jordan? I just love the facial expressions of Nick Wayne and Jordan throughout this match. And it just shows you, like, I love how they, like, really wanted it during this match, and they showed it. And I just love this match, every second of it. It hit everything I could even imagined it coming into the match. It went above and beyond my expectations.
Well, there was one good and one bad with Los Macizos that I thought was kind of funny. We'll go with the bad first. They were cursed by the unbreakable door.
Yeah.
There was just a spot where the door decided it wasn't going to cooperate, and it didn't. And then on the good side, there was a spot where Ciclope, he made Oliver hit Nick in the balls. Then he kind of put him in a headlock. Then he hit him, and it turned into a DDT. So basically, Oliver did all this to Nick, and the fans just popped. They really loved it. I will mention, too, I know it's like I almost wanted to throw this back to you for a second, but I wanted to go back with the Wayne and Oliver situation as a team. They really do have... They do have the same body type, damn near. They do have the same height, damn near. They do have the same age, damn near. Well, at our age, 5-year difference isn't much. But if they gave them a team name, I think that everybody would accept it. I think that giving them, let's just say for the hell of it, let's have fun, put them both in blue pants, everybody would accept it. I think that could be something that 5 years from now, Wayne or Oliver can pull out of their hats and just surprise everyone with, the tag team from da-da-da-da-da back in the day. And also, maybe that would be a good thing to put together and maybe run them up against Bussy down the road again and see what happens with them. But overall, I think that if you gave them a solid 5 years together, they would be an unbeatable tag team. They do have the upside of being capable of being a very, very good tag team. That's really, I just wanted to make sure I hit on that tag team thing with you for a moment, because you're very right that they do have a lot of possibility behind them.
Yes, and I have seen them like one time. I think it was like their second time, or maybe it was when they tag team. They both wear like the all black trunks, which was kind of different for both of them. They both won it on the sides and individually, but it was kind of funny when they like, hey, we're tag teaming again. Like, maybe let's start owning it, and like, hey, maybe let's start showing them maybe we should be a tag team. I know they both, as every wrestler probably has, the single aspirations and stuff. And once again, like, we don't have to pigeonhole tag team wrestlers into being tag team only wrestlers. They could be single stars as well, and you could put 2 single stars as tag team champions as well, as we've seen kind of like with Effie and Alley Catch. They've both like are fine just on their own, and they both represent GCW tag team champions when they have singles match against other people. Like, I don't think it has to be pigeonholed, and I think that's a good thing about with Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver's. They both, I think, as of right now, might benefit greatly because of such a crowded roster, and they like a lot of the one-on-one spots are being kind of taken, and single showcase matches are being taken, where they might both benefit right now of, hey, like, we don't really have quote unquote storylines for you guys, let's put you in the tag team and see what you guys do. And I think right now they're like, oh, you guys are great, let's start featuring you more as a tag team. But as we saw, like, the next so they did, Jordan goes one-on-one against Titus Alexander. So, like, you don't have to pigeonhole them into it, but I do love seeing them as a tag team. And I know we were kind of possibly had them having a tag team name. I don't know. That's a tricky one. I don't want to do the same Young, Dumb, and Broke, because I feel that kind of has a more heelish kind of thing with it. And it's kind of hard seeing Nick Wayne as a heel at this point in his career. And Jordan now is getting way more over, I think, on the face side, as he we've seen him being booed in the past, and it also kind of depends where you go, what city you go to, how much they like him, how much you don't. But I've noticed lately where he's getting a lot more cheers for him, and I think it's because he has upped his game to another level where he's showing the fans like it's going to be hard to boo me when I'm doing these good matches against a Biff Busick in LA and going against in my first ever death match, no rope barbed wire death match for LA. I'm just calling up LA because that's where this show was, and I've been to the LA shows where I know the fans weren't behind him at the beginning, and then even during these matches they were even more against him. But now that he's showing his growth as a performer and as a wrestler, he's kind of showing the fans like, hey, he's going to be like undeniable where you can't boo me. I'm doing stuff that you like, and I'm gonna get the crowd behind me either way. And going back to the team name, I don't know, one that popped in my head. I don't know how we can use it. And this is the dumbest one possible, but Wayne's World, something with like Wayne's World or something like
Wayne's
that.
World.
I don't know.
Wow.
Like that was the one that immediately hopped in my mind. I'm like, it doesn't infect both names. So like maybe if Nick Wayne wants to start like a little stable or something like that, he could call it Wayne's World. I don't know. Just something stupid that came in my head.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention was that I've never mentioned this yet, but I'm a huge fan of tag teams. I really do believe that across the board, just like veterans are used in tag teams where it's about body preservation, I think it goes just the same for younger kids. I also think that may help to make sure that, well, in this situation, we're talking singles that are going into doubles now. So you're talking the self-preservation of Oliver, making sure that he stays healthy. Wayne. Then on the other side of it, you're talking about Alley Catch being preserved because she's always up against men. Let's not bullshit. That's not going to be easy on her body. It's not going to be easy. So then you have Effie making sure he stays preserved. What I mean by that, so that people kind of get a better understanding, is that let's just say you have a 15-minute match and it's a tag match and everybody legitimately plays by the rules. What I mean by that is one person's in the ring and the other one's standing on the outside waiting for a tag. Now, that doesn't always happen in GCW, but if we could keep that to the majority of the time, then my point would make sense. But what I'm saying is in a 15-minute match, normally in a singles 15-minute match, that person is going for 15 minutes and that's just it. But when you have a tag team situation, there's a good chance where one person in a 15-minute match may only be there for 5 minutes, maybe sometimes 10. But the point would be they're out there for 15 face time, but their body's only taken 5 to 10. And that really does help preserve that individual. Allie's been getting the shit kicked out of her now for quite a while. And you know what? She honestly deserves just a touch of a break. And then Effie, we need to preserve him. He is GCW. Ali is too. God bless him. But, Effie 100% also is GCW. And to give him 15 minutes of face time, but to give him 7 to 10 minutes of body time, I think that is the best of both worlds. The fans get what they want, which is a touch more Effie than they generally would get in the average singles match time with Effie. And then Effie could also go back at the end of the night after having all that time and hopefully not be as sore. So I really do feel that the tag teams are also a great way to keep Nick Wayne over here doing his thing without screwing up his body before he gets over to AEW's side and they start getting him trained up.
Yeah, and I think it also, like you said, it makes her rest their body, but they also are learning so much on that apron. Like I know a lot of tag teams, when you usually see tag teams as natural tag teams, they're young, they're learning the business. So the best way to, hey, let's go show off what you know and what you can do while also having you still learn on the apron and saving your body and putting you less at risk for an injury. So, and I'm saying these two like need to get the experience. I mean, every wrestler, like you hear them all the time, they're always learning to improve and trying to get better. They don't just rest on their corals or whatever, however that saying goes, but like they rest on their laurels. There we go. Not corals. Corals is a totally different thing. But like Nick Wayne, him being at a young age, we've seen he could go one-on-one in a 20-minute classic against Will Ospreay, which is awesome. But he could, I think, learn a lot on standing on the apron and watching Los Macisos and a totally different style of wrestling that he's used to or has even been involved in. He could kind of watch Jordan go through it and learn and kind of see this like, oh, so that's what they're going to do with this table spot, or that's what they're planning on doing when they pull out the 2 chairs. It kind of like lets him improve his game, even though he's resting his body and watching from the outside. So like I said, I love love tag team wrestling. I think like tag team wrestling, we've seen at some points during all these promotions we've seen, like sometimes the tag matches are the ones we look forward to the most, like because there's 4 people, not just 2, and 4 brilliant and unpredictable minds. You never know what's going to happen, and with their creativity, I think tag team wrestling adds not just a different style to watch other than singles one-on-one, but I think it improves the viewing experience, as now you got 4 creative minds. And I like kind of how GCW, as you said, like most of the time they don't kind of require the typical tag rules. You don't have to adhere to, hey, 1 in, 1 out. I like how kind of GCW is kind of fluid with that. Well, it does get confusing at sometimes. Like, wait, why are you enforcing this rule now and you didn't enforce that rule 10 minutes ago? Like, I understand that where it becomes an issue, but I like seeing how, like this one was a more Ciclope and Medio Extremo had a tag in and out, where lately we've been seeing them in these trios matches against SGC where there's no tag, no one's standing on the rope and catching your breath and getting ready. Like, no, we're all out here wrestling all around the venue and stuff like that. So this was a nice change of pace to see a more normal 2-on-2 tag match with tags in, tags out, and the rules being, even though they were loosely enforced, as we still had chairs and doors and stuff, we still saw the referee kind of like, hey, I didn't see that tag, or make sure you get the tag in. So I thought this was, like I said, I had expectations into going into this match. I didn't have that high of expectations just because I was worried about the stylistic differences between Little Wayne, Nick Wayne, and I think Emma always calls him Little Wayne. It always messes me up. Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver going against a more Lucha Extrema style, but like I said, this to me blew my expectations out of the water. This was the match of the night for me, and it was entertaining seeing awesome tag matches. And even like the LA fans, like I said, like LA fans are kind of more into the death match stuff, and when they get it, they approve it. Like they were even giving Jordan and Nick Wayne a standing applause during this match, and at the end giving them the love because they realized, yeah, it wasn't as extreme. They went through a couple doors and chairs, but like, yeah, you don't need all that stuff to impress us. You impressed us with your awesome tag team ability. And I love this match. I think we skipped through the ending again.
Oh, no. That's okay. That's okay. One of the things I wanted to kind of expand on for a second here was you were talking about how, Nick Wayne would be able to stand on the outside of the ring and kind of learn from these guys. Well, the other part that people don't think of sometimes is that he'll be able to stand on the outside of the ring and learn how to read a crowd.
Yes.
There's a lot of wrestlers sometimes, the opinion is of some professional wrestlers that other wrestlers aren't very good at reading a crowd and knowing how to react to them. A lot of times you're going to hear that from the older wrestlers talking about the newer generation because that's how they are. But that's also why some people believe it's best to start out instead of as a wrestler, but even as a referee, so that you have the opportunity to really learn how to read a crowd and see how wrestlers' how wrestlers' actions can create a reaction with the crowd and what that may be. So I think that he can learn from inside the ring and also outside of the ring by standing beside those ropes there. And I think that also may be very important down the road. I think he's excellent at what he does now, but he's not done. He's nowhere near done. And I think that's really the nice part with this.
And that goes back to that's really the point I was trying to make with that tag team wrestling is you get to see how the crowd feels. Like, I'm just using his age. I'm not saying because his age he doesn't know this. He damn well knows this because he showed it during the Will Ospreay match. But a lot of these younger wrestlers, like you hear the veterans tell them, slow down. You can do 5,000. Like we were talking about in the settlement series, Effie yelling at Axton Ray.
Mathers.
Oh yeah, Mathers and Alec Price of like, dude, the match just started. You did 20 moves. Like, slow the hell down. 4 moves, that's it. Like, it lets, as you said, he gets to read the crowd, and you don't always have to do move just because the crowd's cheering on it. Let it sit there. Let the crowd process what they just saw and show their appreciation and give them time to show that appreciation, or have them not show their appreciation. You sat there and you waited. You don't hear anything like, "Hey, I wasn't as good as I thought I was there. Let's okay do something else." Like it gets their timing and how to react to the crowd. Helps with that situation in these tag matches. But going to the end of this match, Los Macisos did pick up the victory. Miedo Extremo hit the 450 splash. I believe it was on Nick Wayne to pick up the victory. But as I said at the end, like you see Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver shaking hands and start leaving the ring. But then like Maciso's like, no, get back in here. Like listen to this crowd. Like it wasn't just us. They're not just cheering for us because we won. You were part of this match. You were part of this awesomeness. Come here and let the fans show you how much they appreciate you. Which I thought, like I said, LA being a little bit tougher crowd with the more normal wrestling on in that sense of me being in person. That's what I kind of got from them. I thought that was very awesome. LA crowd showing the love for Jordan Oliver, Nick Wayne, as well as Los Macisos, as Los Macisos continue their hot streak in the GCW ring. For the sixth match of the evening, we have a death match in Hunter Freeman going against Rob Shit. And this was a kind of a showcase match as we had Pollo Del Mar and Jordan Castle hop on the commentary during this match. And this was the first time I believe we've seen Hunter Freeman and Rob Shit on a GCW show, as we've seen them on LA Fights before. And this was kind of cool for me. This is going a little deep here, like personally, not deep personally, but I had like kind of a cool little personal connection to this match just on my end because I have seen Hunter Freeman during many of these LA shows that I go to, the GCW shows, where he's not on the card wrestling, but he was one of the ring crew that they use to make sure the fans are safe and to clean up the ring and to make sure all the deathmatch fuckery is all set up right and stuff. Like him, he has done that on many shows before, as has Rob Shit. So I thought it was very cool for seeing their kind of careers kind of not come full circle, but seeing them on the outside, making sure fans are safe, to going into the ring and making sure those two are not safe and going just beating the shit out of each other during this death match. And Hunter Freeman and Rob Shit definitely stepped up to the plate. They definitely represented LA Fights well during this death match. And I just thought it was very cool seeing those two get into an actual GCW ring after seeing all the hard work they've done on past shows at the Ukrainian Cultural Center and in LA. Them kind of getting the recognition of, hey, you've worked your ass off here off to the side, making sure that our show runs smooth and everyone's safe. Here's your time to shine. And I thought that was a pretty cool little thing for me to see those two wrestle. John, what were your thoughts on this death match?
Okay, so we've never really ran down a death match, and I take different notes completely for death matches. We're going to go with the way I kind of have done it before this time. And if we need to change it up, we will. But I just want to tell you ahead of time, the way I do death matches is a little different. I kind of have more fun with them because death matches are supposed to be more fun. And I kind of go over more of the important stuff. So it's a little more free flowing. So first of all, I got to give a little bit to the best name of the night for Rob Shit. I'd have to say that's just amazing.
Hey, before you go there, one second. I don't know if you caught this. Have you ever watched like that in Vegas when they were here for VXS for Better Off Dying, I believe it was? Did you see on the bottom of the ticker, like, you know how they actually put their names on VXS, like the rest of the that was so funny, just seeing the word shit next to doctor on the bottom of VXS as he went against Dr. Redacted. I thought that was the funniest thing. I just had to throw it out there. I love seeing shit on the bottom of the thing. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, you're all good. Actually, at some point, maybe I'd like to I'm hoping that Dr. Redacted gets in one of the shows review, because I do have a couple of things to say about him. I really do like him. He's entertaining, but yeah, okay. So, but best name of the night goes to Rob Shit for sure. He's the second man out. Hunter Freeman comes first. I really like how Hunter Freeman looks. He has kind of a taller look to him. He's slender. Because he has those longer arms and legs, when he does something, it adds more flair to it. It's almost like when you punch a wrestler with long hair, it just looks a little better because there's that impact. I think that if Hunter decides to get really serious, he does have a little bit of a future in GCW doing these kind of matches more than he already may be. The match starts with Rob coming out and he starts playing to the crowd. He's posing. He's right up against the ropes there, and he's right on camera. He's trying to look. He's looking around at the crowd. He's sucking in that last little bit of love from everybody before the match starts. He goes to turn around and pop. Hunter hits him right in the head with this vicious chair shot, and it's not like he just swung it. It's he threw it at him. And so that's where we started. Minute 2, Rob's using a staple gun. He staples his shirt to Hunter's head. I thought that was really funny. And sometimes you wonder if that staple's really in there. Hunter stood up and it was stuck in there. Minute 3 featured strangulation, one of my favorites. Minute 4 was Hunter paying homage to B-Boy. He had a double foot stomp in the corner. I'm so sorry. By any chance, Mystical, do you know the name of that move or no?
No, I do not.
Okay.
But I love how you mentioned that B-Boy thing, because like I said, you took great notes on this match. I was watching this match. I swear to God, I didn't write down anything match related on this match. I thought it was a good match watching it, but watching it, I was thinking about, like I said, I was the whole time the match was going, I thought it was awesome seeing them work from the bottom as a ring crew member to finally get their matches here. And on commentary during this spot in the match, I believe, I can't remember which announcer said it, but they made a comment of how they're both trained by B-Boy, and B-Boy has had training with both of them and trained. And I thought, like, B-Boy being a South SoCal legend and seeing him at some of these GCW shows, as he has a bigger name and he doesn't like even wrestle on it, but he's on the outside kind of like encouraging the wrestlers and making sure everything runs smooth. I thought this was like another cool way of like promoting Hunter Freeman and Rob Shit as B-Boy's proteges into this death match in GCW. I thought that was just a cool thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's a total feel-good moment. And well, it's a feel-good moment for those who know that and understand that, like I would have to explain that to my son or someone like that so that they understand how important it is. It's like explaining how it's so important that Los Macizos is coming back to GCW. Some people know about that, some don't. If you only have a scope of a year, like some of us may have, you're really not going to know much about them. But if you really go back and try to watch more GCW, you will see they're on there.
Yes.
Minute 5, Freeman pushed from the top rope onto a barbed wire door, which was vicious. Minute 6, a chair shot onto Freeman that took a little bit of time for Freeman to recover from. So minute 7, barbed wire starts to come out, and that's used. Minute 8, that shirt gets put back on Rob, and now it gets stapled onto his head. Minute 9, Rob Shit gets put through a barbed wire covered door. And then finally at 10, which was almost damn near on the 10-minute mark, Freeman hits a top rope moonsault onto Rob for the win. So it was a really fun match. That's kind of how I take notes on that one, because it kind of gets to the point. Death matchers want to know who bled and how. So I try to make it that way.
Yes. And like I said, you had the notes on the match. I had the notes of, like I said, just experiencing it and kind of feeling good for those two performers to actually get the chance to seeing their hard work pay off. And I thought this was a good showcase of LA fights, because as we were saying, like how going back to the Settlement Series and the Great American Birthday Bash of JCW, how you could kind of see these LA fights wrestlers or JCW wrestlers going in and out of the GCW scene, and them being on the West Coast, being the parent company of LA Fights, seeing them put into wrestlers that have been making their mark, obviously, and putting in the hard work outside of the ring for GCW, and then seeing them in the GCW ring representing LA Fights. And then on my end, on top of all that, giving the LA crowd what they always want when this GCW comes in a death match. So I thought this was a very cool way, because if you ever watch any of the any of the LA Fights matches, they don't really do death matches. They just kind of focus on in-ring work and the more classic style wrestling, which is fine, because JCW, they kind of incorporate the deathmatch in there too. But I think this was a cool way of incorporating the deathmatch style of wrestling into LA Fights. And I'm interested to see the next LA Fight show if we see another 1 or 2 death matches put in there of not just Hunter Freeman and Rob Shit, but maybe some other people that they have on their LA Fights roster that want to show off their deathmatch skills.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it earlier, and I just wanted to hit on it again, and I don't have a lot to say about it. I just like putting it out in the atmosphere. But Rob, as crazy as it sounds, but also as crazy as he is, He reminds me a lot of Brian Pillman Sr., and I mean that 100% in a good way. If this man can run his mouth, he's going to be in a really good place to be, he'll just be in a much better position to make money, make more money.
Yeah, and like I said, we haven't really seen much of Rob Shit talk or even Hunter Freeman talk as well. But I believe like they had 10 minutes for this match. I think like as you went down minute 2, minute 3, like every minute there was something crazy and consistent going on. So whatever short amount of time that us fans or maybe the wrestlers feel that they had, they definitely made the most out of those 10 minutes. And I think they represented LA fights well. And I think with that LA crowd, like I said, they seem more into the death matches and they seem more into the normal style matches, but them getting the whetting the appetite with deathmatch wrestling, even though it was from LA Fights wrestlers, I think those two showcased what LA Fights could possibly turn into. And I think LA Fights obviously is on an upward trajectory as well, with these two leading the way in the deathmatch scene for LA Fights. In the 7th match of the evening, we have the GCW Tag Team titles being defended by Team Bussy, and they were supposed to be going up against a team of PP Ray, but unfortunately, just like Johnny Game Changer, PP Ray couldn't show up, so instead, they offer a open challenge, does Bussy, and who answers the challenge is none other than SGC. So we have a tag team title match of Bussy going against SGC, a bunch of friendly allies going against each other. John, what did you think of this matchup?
Well, first of all, I was really excited because Bussy was excited. They came out to the fact that PWI had listed them as the number 6 tag team in the world at that time. So, I mean, they were through the roof. As of right now, from when we checked, as of the recording today, which right now we're recording on the 27th, they're number 4 in the world right now. Thank you. So GCW all the fucking way. SGC comes out hot, and they're going to bring the party with them. Right off the bat, SGC split screen is in full effect. Yeah. I can't say enough how much I love the split screen.
Yes.
It was in the ring to start the match, and then it went directly outside. Overall, it was about 70% in-ring action. We had GCW chants and Bussy chants all throughout this thing. Primarily, we had SGC on offense for a good chunk of this match. They were really handing the damage down. Lots of doors and chairs. I mean, a lot of doors and chairs used. Ali went on a chair fest at one point, so that was really impressive. I heard somebody, I don't know if it was Emil or KG, you actually hear him say, "Is that blood on or coming from Justice's dick?" And I think what he had was just a little bit of blood on his pants or whatever. Yeah. And then that's where I don't know who it was that was talking. He goes, "Oh, that's just another Friday night for Justice."
Hot tub guy, Sean. Yeah, he was one of a kind during this match on commentary. Shout out to hot tub guy Sean. We've heard him on commentary before. Yeah, he had quite a few zingers going on. I know you said like that's a normal Friday night for Justice. That's what he said. I loved how he said. I think Effie ended up taking like a backbreaker on a chair or something like that. And like the line of the night for me was when he goes, "That's not how Effie wanted to get his back blown out on a Friday night in Los Angeles." So he was on one. This commentary team, they were on one all night. They killed it. They were kind of highlights throughout the whole night with all their different commentary. But in this match specifically, Sean and KG, like they were just dropping zingers left and right where it kind of took the, I was watching the craziness unfold, but I was more interested. Okay, what's he going to say next? What's going to happen? What kind of crazy line is Sean or KG going to say regarding Team Bussy or Matthew Justice and Mance Warner on a Friday night in LA? Like, I love the commentary during this match.
Oh, well, yeah, the whole thing was an absolute party. You could kind of hear it. You could hear the bong, and you could hear the noises. You could hear coughing going on. So honestly, I think especially when it's a West Coast show, they're just trying to have a lot of fun, and they really do seem to have a lot of fun. Luckily, instead of them getting stoned to the gills to where they can't talk, they actually get more creative, and it's not a messy kind of thing. So it's really nice to hear them have a good time out there. But we talked about this before, and I'm not going to touch on it too much. But when we first thought, Bussy had those titles, that it was going to be a joke. And here's another match where they're out there going toe to toe with SGC. Some of the toughest guys that GCW has, on their roster, that isn't a full-time death matcher. But overall, I thought it was a really satisfying match. I really did believe at one point that Bussy might lose that title. I could easily see a change of hands on that title because SGC can carry a title so well, especially with their capabilities. There was a rarely used spot from the top rope that involved all four people that put Effie and SGC through a door. I really thought that was cool. But overall, though, SGC looked dominant up until the very end. There was a quick roll up from Bussy, so that ended up being it was a touch abrupt. But overall, it was 17 minutes. I mean, a strong 17-minute match. Was there anything else you wanted to kind of add on this one, or do you think that's,
I just like seeing, even though we've seen it quite often with the different variations of teams in SGC, but I love it when it's Team SGC versus SGC. I kind of always wonder how they're going to stay together as a tag team or wrestle against each other, even though they are tag team wrestlers. It was just, for me, seeing Bussy going against Justice and Warner, and I noticed in one spot outside, like they did a crazy spot with Alley Catch outside, and like Mance Warner, like right away just goes and checks on Alley Catch because I think he dropped her pretty hard, or maybe she took a rough landing. But like you actually see them caring for each other, even while beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
And like I said, I believe they just had a match recently against each other, and it being in LA, I know that's where Team Bussy beat the Briscoes. At Ukrainian Cultural Center at GCW Paranoid. I loved kind of seeing like Team Bussy back in LA and back where they earned the title shot. They earned the tag team titles. I liked seeing them always defend it to where they were, and it was kind of cool. Even though we didn't get the tag team match that was advertised for the night, just like how Johnny Game Changer versus Gringo, I was kind of more in excited to see it being SGC instead of Team PP Ray, and I was kind of more excited to see Rocky Romero instead of Johnny Game Changer. Not saying that they would have been bad matches, they just would have been totally different matches that might not have fit in my style and my like of wrestling, but it delivered as it was cool. I was interested to see what they would do if they would, because they just had Rob Shit and Hunter Freeman from LA Fights. I was wondering if maybe they, as a surprise team, would bring in some other tag team that wrestles for LA Fights or in the SoCal area that maybe we never seen before and make a GCW debut. I always get excited when they do these open challenges because with GCW, they usually deliver on the surprises of like who's going to show up, and it's usually someone that you either least expect or would want to see them be the surprise. And yes, they are, because they fit well stylistically going against the opponent. So I was kind of interested to see what happened, and I was very happy to see SGC come out as the ones to accept the challenge. And yeah, in typical SGC fashion, they were all over the place. It wasn't like earlier where we saw Los Macisos and Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne tagging in and out. I don't think I saw a single tag this match. They just both came out, showed the respect and love that they had for each other at the beginning, and then beat the love and respect out of each other mid-match. And then of course, at the end, we get the love again and get the Team SGC back together. But Team Bussy does pick up the victory over SGC, and Effie and Alley Catch continue their winning ways. And as you said, they were ranked number 6 going into this show. I think they were ranked number 5 too the week prior, if I remember correctly, hearing them being in the top 5 and then being dropped into the top 6, even though they retained their titles the week they were number 5. I thought it was pretty interesting, but then as we were just about to start this match, I looked it up. I was kind of interested to see where they would be ranked wise in PWI, and they are ranked now number 4, as you said. So it's kind of nice seeing GCW wrestlers and talent and the promotion itself getting love from Pro Wrestling Insider and all these other big wrestling news outlets. And when I was looking up those titles, it was very interesting to see, or the rankings, I should say. I was interested to see Los Macisos are ranked number 8. So even Los Macisos being recognized by PWI as one of the top 10 tag teams in the world, and they're actually ahead of the Young Bucks, which is like another shocking and surprising thing to see. But it's always nice to see GCW getting love from bigger wrestling outlets and stuff like that, because we always see everyone wants to shit on GCW and call them whatever name they want to call them because they're not really into it or understand what GCW does. But us being as fans, and I myself just love seeing them get recognized on these bigger news outlets.
Yeah, I treat GCW like family. This is one of these situations where, you know, how dare they touch one of my wrestlers? How dare they speak bad of, you know, this guy? There was a match that happened not too long ago where it was the West Coast portion of the VXS situation, and I love Brian Cage, but at the same time I'm going, that son of a bitch better not injure Nick Wayne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at in this situation. I'm actually kind of protective. And I mean, it's one of these things where it does feel like family. When we were at WrestleMania, but when I was with my group of people out there, I saw Allie in the crowd. Man, we cheer. I'm yelling up there, Allie. You know, my group were yelling like they're freaking stars. And Jimmy Lloyd was there. I went over and said hi to him real quick. Told him we saw him the night before. You know, tell him thank you for a good show. And yeah, so I'm especially very protective of the GCW people, performers, fans. Part of what we're going to do here eventually, I know we talked about earlier, was we're going to start, once we get caught up, we're going to start announcing the upcoming shows. And part of what we do is make sure that we do really make sure that we find the performers that are the GCW regulars. And if they're going to be at a show, we're going to talk about that show. So if you like Effie, you can find him here. Billy Starks, you can find her here. So we're going to do that to make sure there's more support overall. And I think that's what it comes down to, really, is support.
Yes, and I'm interested to see now because Team Bussy's been on a roll here, kind of mowing down the GCW tag team locker room. I'm interested to see who or what could possibly take them down and take those tag team titles away. And I believe this coming up week when it's GCW, the people versus GCW versus the people in Nashville, I believe we got a pretty exciting tag match coming up there where it's Los Macizos, Bussy, and SGC in a 3-way tag match for the tag team title. So I'm just interested to see, like, since they're just defeating everybody and kind of on the rampage and on the roll that they're going, I want to see who GCW either gets to step up to take those titles off of them, or if they maybe have to dip into their bag of tricks and possibly bring in a outside tag team to finish the job. I'm interested to see it, but like you said, I like seeing Bussy, Team Bussy everywhere, like outside of GCW, and still representing and defending those tag titles. And as you said, they're great ambassadors for the tag team division and representing GCW just as a whole. So it was kind of nice, very nice actually seeing Team Bussy defeat SGC and retain their tag team titles. In the 8th matchup of the evening, we have Dark Sheik going one-on-one against Cole Radrick. And I thought this was a nice, solid match. Interesting. Once again, I always bring up interesting styles because GCW always puts a different style of matches together. And thought this one, I was interested to see how this one would play out between Dark Sheik and Cole Radrick, as Cole has kind of been on his little deathmatch ratty daddy tour lately. But he also, we know, kind of excels also in the regular one-on-one format as well. And Dark Sheik, we've seen a lot of her, not really in deathmatch setting unless you want to go against Nick Gage about a year ago, but I thought I was interested to see how Dark Sheik would hold her own going against Cole Radrick in this match. John, what did you think of Dark Sheik versus Cole Radrick?
You know, I thought it was an old school, slower paced match. A lot of combos. There was holds at times. It was more of something you'd see 15 years ago, maybe. It wasn't the fast-paced, flippy kind of thing that you would see more today. I don't want to say flippy, but I can't think of a better way to put it. Both of them came out to good cheers. There wasn't any, favorite coming out of the gate. I did like that at one point here that, commentary was still being loose from the party atmosphere.
Right.
So somewhere in the middle there, I heard somebody say, "Where in the hell is Rekshick Mountain in Indiana?" I think it's flat there.
Yeah, I think that was Pollo Del Mar, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And then Pollo was also the one that said, they said right around here is where Dark Sheik has an opening. And then Pollo says, "Please don't talk about her big opening." So I thought, that was entertaining. It was something kind of fun.
Yes, there was
But
no chill from the, like, as we were talking about last match, there was no chill in this broadcast tonight. And I thought that, like, watching it, and like I said, when I'm in person, I always go back and rewatch it because of all the stuff you miss when you watch it live. When you're watching live,
Yeah,
I got my
yeah.
mind going left, right. I'm listening to the people behind me talk. Like, that's my new thing now, is listening to people talk about wrestling that might have no idea what they're in for, and they're kind of talking about it. Like, I just have so much stimuli going on in person where I miss everything. But then I obviously don't hear any commentary, so I love going back and watching it again, and then listening to all the information and little tidbits. And throughout this night, all the entertainment they brought on the commentary team.
Yeah, I would say this was one of those matches where they were trying to get the crowd to kind of relax, calm down just a touch. I mean, this was following a great match. So, Dark Sheik and Radrick, 10 minutes, it wasn't even up to that standard 12-minute, benchmark, sometimes a little more. But towards the end of this thing, Ratty was getting booed, which is rare. Yes. And it was one of those things where when he does something, I feel like I'm booing him because I have to. I think I said this about Cardona before. When I did get a chance to talk to him, I said, man, I love you, but it's my job to boo you.
Exactly.
Same thing. I if I had a chance, I would tell Ratty the same thing. Hey, man, I freaking love you, but it's my chance to give you some heat,
Yeah, like going off of what you just said, like their last show they had in Vegas on Fight TV, it came out cross perfect. Like, we were sitting front row and Cardona's walking around, and like me and my wife now loves Cardona because he had a lot of interactions earlier this year with another GCW fan, Mittens, and we kind of just loved seeing Cardona kind of mess with Mittens a lot. So we were kind of rooting for Cardona, but as he comes out, obviously, you hear the radio and all the boos come out, all the middle fingers come out. They shove it right in his face. He's got the heat that he wants, and everyone's flipping him off. But like, as he's walking by me, like me and my wife are like, yeah, go Cardona. But he decides, like, on camera before he steps in the ring, stops right next to me. I'm not doing anything to him, looks right at me, and then flips me off. It's like, no, I'm rooting for you, Cardona. So of course at that point I'm like, well, all right, fuck you too then. And I'm giving him the middle finger back. But it was like, Fight TV caught that perfect. I was like, hey, I'm on TV. Wait a minute, why am I the one getting flipped off? I did nothing except root for you, Matt.
Yeah, this was like I was saying. I mean, there isn't much to say here past the fact that this was a nice cold glass of milk. And that's exactly what they wanted to do, because dessert was eventually going to come out and it was going to be fantastic. They had to give a breather at this point because they knew that a 30-minute match was coming up next as their main event. So overall, it was nice to see two favorites come out. They put on a solid match. They didn't go out there and try to really kill each other. Sheik did have a nice tope suicida onto Ratty that sent him 2 rows back. So I thought that was kind of cool. But otherwise, they kind of kept it nice and easy. They weren't out there trying to bleed. They weren't out there trying to do anything that might injure the other person or themselves that much. They had a job in mind and they went out there and did it. Quick, entertaining, boom, done.
Yeah, and this is going to kind of go off with, like I was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, of the match placement. Up until this point, this is where I texted my wife, I texted you, and I was like, this is one of the best GCW cards I've seen in a long time, if not ever, just because it was nonstop, different styles, different matchups. It was different surprises. Leo Rush, Rocky Romero, SGC. Like, this card had it all for me. And this is not a knock on these two wrestlers, but like, once it came down to this match, we all knew it was kind of getting now towards the end of the night, and they had a nice old school match, which was like, we saw rest holds even and stuff like that. It was a nice match, a nice fun change of pace scene against more technical style, nothing crazy. But as you were saying, they had like a mission. Their mission on this match was to kind of, hey, ease the fans into what they're about to get here. Don't go crazy and try to steal the show, but get your guys' shit in, get the crowd behind you guys. So that way, at the end of your match, we got the main event coming up next. The crowd still has all their energy for the main event. And I think this match was a nice, like, solid, entertaining match. Yes, it was only 10 minutes, but I think with all the crazy shit we've seen those first 2 hours, I think match placement, maybe this could have been thrown in maybe a little earlier in the night and switched with one of those other matches, because I felt like the first 2 hours of this show was incredible. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is going to be one of the cards of the night or the year, if not ever, from GCW. Then this match, like I said, is not to knock anything Cole Radrick and Dark Sheik. They weren't given enough time even to kind of go crazy and to put on all the craziness. So I think just match placement, and for myself, this could have maybe been at a separate part of the night. But then, as we talk about with match play, it's easy to play Booker over here with someone else's money, but here's where I would be wrong. Okay, let's put this match earlier in the night. Let's have now maybe SGC against Pussy go against the main event. When you got all that crazy match, and then maybe that takes the sales out of the main event and gets the crowd a little bit tired to even cheer as loud as they can and give as much emotion as you want to for the main event. So yeah, I'm saying I would book it different, and I'm now thinking about it, I would have booked it wrong. Like it would have kind of taken away from the main event, and I believe if I would have booked it wrong. But I just think like this was a good match. It wasn't intended to go crazy. It was just to set up the main event, showcase Dark Sheik, who's on the West Coast, is killing it out here with Pollo Damar, the manager of champions and stuff like that. And Cole Radrick, I don't believe this might be the first time Cole was at the UCC in LA, as far as I can remember. But it's kind of
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool seeing Cole out here on the West Coast, because as we mostly see him, it's in the AC or Midwest and all that stuff. He hasn't really ventured out here. Same thing with Dark Sheik. We don't really see her too much out in Atlantic City, even though she did a couple months ago, and now she does more loops out there. But this is, I believe, like I said, one of Cole's earlier runs out here in the West Coast. So it's kind of a way to showcase Cole Radrick into the West Coast fans. But going into the ending of this match, Dark Sheik does end up picking up the victory. She hits the Welcome to Die on Cole Radrick and picks up the victory. And that leads us into our main event of the evening. And in the main event of No Signal in the Hills, Part 2 from GCW at the Ukrainian Cultural Center, we have Joey Janela going one-on-one against Kevin Blackwood. And this was an interesting main event. This was, I believe, Kevin Blackwood's first main event in a GCW ring. It was obviously Joey Janela's been here many times, and I was interested to see how Joey would try to not carry Kevin Blackwood, but kind of help him navigate through a main event match with the raucous LA crowd that LA usually brings. And I was interested in how Blackwood would step up to the plate in his first GCW main event. And it was interesting. It was an interesting match, a lot slower pace than what we saw throughout the rest of the night. But John, what were your thoughts on this main event match?
Well, first off, I was really looking for Blackwood to get big cheers, just because in this situation, he'd be the hometown guy over Joey Janela. But Joey primarily got the same crowd noise there initially, but then here came the FUs. He was getting the Cardona welcome, where, I mean, he was getting fucked with pretty hard with the fans. So as Joey's coming through the ring and he's kind of walking around the ring, he gets on the apron. The whole time he seems to be a little bothered by something. There was someone somewhere he kept pointing to, he kept looking at. I was trying to figure out what was going on. So Joey's kind of asking for a microphone. So I'm going, okay, I don't know what's going on here. So Joey gets on the corner. He gets up in the corner there onto the second rope. He starts yelling at this guy in the back. This guy has a sign that says Janela fears Brian last. So for whatever reason, and I was really hoping it wouldn't bug him, but it really bugged Joey a lot. And he starts talking shit with the fan, back and forth. So it's not really back and forth. He has the microphone. So he's primarily just doing all the talking. He starts messing with the guy's girlfriend, saying, hey, you want me, and da-da-da. And Kevin, the whole time, he's just standing there. He's waiting for the show to end so that the match can start. So, I mean, that's really where we were. And Joey finally calmed down, but that's where we were truly before the bell even rung.
And Joey has a lot of heat, especially with the LA crowd, especially what happened at, I think it was Heartbreak, GCW, some sort of Heartbreak. It was a weekend that they had in LA a couple months ago when he was teaming with Sean Waltman going up against Matt Cardona and Hawkins. Yeah, he went up against Matt Cardona and Hawkins. And I know he's got tremendous heat with that because as we saw at the end of that match, he ended up turning on X-Pac and then a riot ensued. So, of course, every time now Janela's back in LA, he does have the nuclear heat that Cardona has where the crowd hates him. And like now, every time I see that, I always kind of wonder, like, oh, who's going to be the one that starts throwing the beers in the ring at Janela? Or who's going to ruin this match? Or who's going to get underneath Janela's skin so much where Joey Janela finally breaks, like as he did at the end of that event where he turned on Waltman. It was like legit, like almost riot in there where people were throwing buckets full of beer, full of ice at Janela, and from 2 feet away throwing their cups of their mixed specialty drinks at. It's been crazy in LA with Joey Janela ever since then. And then of course he came out, everyone's flipped him off, and then you saw that one fan get underneath him with that Brian Last sign, and that's the Cornette effect on Joey Janela. And we were kind of talking about the Cornette effect last episode where Joey lets it get underneath of him, but luckily he was able to reshift his focus onto Blackwood after he decided to eviscerate that Brian Last fan, the person holding that sign. And this was a solid match, kind of a typical Joey match where you have 28 minutes here where it's a Joey Janela match. We know we're going to get 30 minutes of craziness. It's going to go all over the ring. It's going to go to the outside normally, even though we have seen, especially those last couple loops and podcasts we did with Joey Janela against Davey Richard, he kept it inside. And me knowing kind of Kevin Blackwood, we haven't really seen the doors, the chairs, and all that stuff in Blackwood matches. I was kind of expecting it to be more mat based and technical, a technical showcase of Blackwood and Janela.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining overall, even though it had more of that slower pace. They were trying to keep themselves at least somewhat physically together so they weren't winded by minute 20.
Yes.
And that really made sense. It showed it here. For the first 12 minutes of the match, I think Joey just primarily beat on Kevin. That was the point here. That's what they wanted to do. Joey hits a top rope neck breaker on Blackwood. It was just punish. At some point, it did kind of get turned around here for a while. Blackwood hits Janela from the top rope with a double stomp on the chest through a door. It was nice to see a door hold up under Joey's weight for the first time in quite a few shows. Blackwood gets hit with an incredibly loud slap is what I have in my notes here. I 100% remember this. I mean, he just chops the shit out of him, and it was just incredible.
Yes. And I kind of going back to how he was calling out that fan and Cornette, I think this was a way of Joey Janela's like, hey, this is the kind of style match you like. You always say that we all should do. Here you go. Here's what you're going to get. And I think he did for the most part of that match until he started bringing out the door and stuff like that. Of course, that gets away from the philosophy that Cornette kind of wishes wrestlers would stay away from and stuff like that. But I think this was like another one of like, if something like that happened pre-match, I wonder if that changed Joey's mentality going into this match and decided to, hey, we're not going to do all the fuckery so much. Let's try to keep it more mat based and kind of prove these Cornette lovers and these Cornette co-hosts and stuff like that, give them like what they want, and let's see how they try to shit on this anyway. And I just wonder how that affected Joey, especially the mindset, like right then and there, you get to see it right in front of your face. And you see kind of Blackwood just kind of standing there like, hey, are we going to do this or what? Like, focus your attention on me, not some random fan. And no, go ahead.
Okay. So really here, I'd have to say that it would only be natural that if Joey was bugged that bad, that it was probably on his mind for a portion of the match for sure, if not the whole damn thing. I was really hoping it wouldn't bug him that bad because it looks like a weakness more than it does a strength. And then it really did piss off the fan because there is some video on Twitter that was, I think, posted the next day, if I'm correct, where that gentleman actually came up to the merch table where Joey was at towards the end of that night there and starts cussing at him. And, Joey tries to, laugh it off a little bit. And, but I mean, on Joey's end, It's funny how Joey always does this blurring of the lines thing. Maybe it bugged him. Maybe he was just using this as a heel tactic. Maybe it was, but there must have been a message in there somewhere because he was loud about that. But it really seems to bug. It really seemed to bug Joey, and I think it really shouldn't be shown if it does bug him because he is part of the heart of GCW, and I really wouldn't want it to show that there's a crack at GCW because someone keeps just running their mouth.
Yeah.
No reason whatsoever.
And going off of kind of like how you said, the fan kind of like afterwards kind of confronted him.
Yeah.
He's kind of, once you get to that kind of heel heat, that's the kind of shit you obviously kind of have to be careful for, or some people can't sit there and blur the lines. Some people, it's still real to me. Damn it. He talked about me and my co-host. I'm going to attack him. Not like saying like, hey, it's wrestling. Like he's trying to get underneath your skin, just like how you got underneath his skin. Like that's his job, is to make you want to hate him. Where some of these fans, especially the freaking world nowadays, like you never know. You might piss off the wrong fan and it might come at you. Where I know Joey Janela has invited, I've seen it on Twitter, especially like this ever since that night, I think it was, he's been on like a little Twitter spree of calling out all the bullshit that he thinks is bullshit and putting fans in their place. But there comes a point in time where he's got to be careful, where he might do that to the wrong person, especially with how fucked up our world is nowadays with everything going on, where he has to kind of watch it. He kind of has to toe that line that he wants to blur. He has to sit there and try to be the biggest heel and asshole he can, while also trying to get the fans respect of, hey, don't sit there and throw shit at me in my ring when I'm turning heel and bad guy. Yes, I'm supposed to get underneath your skin, and that doesn't mean it gives you the right to throw a full fucking beer or throw a full bucket of beer at me while I'm still in this ring performing for you guys. And you guys are just doing that because there's no guardrails here. Like him, he stands up for himself and he challenges the fans, but I personally think he needs to kind of watch it, even though he's the bad boy. He's going to do what he wants to do. And he's a grown ass man. He can make his own decision. I just know with me, like that's where I kind of like I would tone it down, but Joey Janela's diving headfirst into it all and welcoming it all. I just saw everything all I hope everything turns out for the best for Joey, where no stupid fan does actually get him at one of these meet and greets, or while he's at the merch table signing shit for you guys without charging for it. Whereas you don't see that in other companies, where you could just walk up to the wrestler, buy their merch, and meet and greet them for free. Normally you have to fucking pay $50 to go do the meet and greet, where at GCW with the wrestlers and talent, they don't do that stuff. They give back to the fans and they make themselves way more accessible to these fans. And I just hope that we all as fans could respect Joey as a heel and not having to try to take matters into our own hands.
Yeah, I found out here a couple days ago that Joey's going to be signing autographs behind bulletproof glass in Nashville.
Yeah.
And this might be to a greater topic down the road, but I think that being a true blue heel now that's believable is way more dangerous than being a true blue heel in the 50s and the 60s. I don't think that fans are smarter. I don't think that fans are stronger or tougher. I just think they're more dangerous. I think that people's blinders now are not so large. I think that people are more apt to see violence, so I think they're more numb to it. It's just wow. Could you imagine? I mean, some of these guys getting injured just because of, it's theater.
Yeah.
Theater.
Like I was there when Joey went out to the ring after that show ended, Heartbreak. Its show ended on Fight TV. They didn't pick up near the half the stuff that I saw, which was like, I was on the other side of the ring. By that point, it was like the main event. So we were kind of like, me and my wife were in the back, kind of like, hey, after the show, let's kind of get ready to get out of here. Because we had the next day, another show that next day. And it turned into like a riot where like people were throwing shit. Like you could see Joey like, hey, I got underneath your guys' skin, but don't disrespect the performer. Like, yes, you could come up to the ring, you could pound the ring. Yes, we fly into you and stuff, but that does not give you the right to sit there and throw full buckets of beer at a wrestler, no matter what they say. It wasn't like Joey put his hands on anybody or anything like that. And we talk about like Mexico, like you got the Mexican wrestlers, the fans, like they sit there and pee in a bottle and throw it at the bottle, throw that bottle into the ring. Like, yes, we have it better here a little bit, but we're getting to the point where we are pushing the limits of what is safe and what isn't. And I just hope Joey, I know he started off as a joke that he was going to get that bulletproof glass at his meet and greet signing at the Starcast, but for having to actually see that in person, that's going to be, if it actually does happen, even if it's a
Yeah,
joke, it
if
might
it
be
happens.
it might be a scary thing for us fans to see. Where it's like, hey, this is what happens when you got the wrong fans that ruin it for all the other good fans out there.
Yeah, I can't believe someone would actually believe it to a point to where it's I mean, I'll go to prison for life over some thinking,
Yes,
and they don't even know my name. Yeah,
exactly.
I really uh so I mean, getting back to this, because I just want to go with my last note or two here. It really was a true 30-minute match. Both men saved themselves, so they didn't really gas out. They had some spots planned and they spaced them out accordingly. So I mean, it was overall a really well planned match. If excuse me, if there was something that bothered Joey, he really did keep it to himself and outside of the performance. He didn't seem to give any extra time to the person after that. He didn't try to brawl in that area. He didn't try to make a bigger stink of it during the match. So that was really all that I had to say about what the heck was going on here. It was just a paced out 30-minute affair, and it started a little crazy with the fan interaction, but I mean, Blackwood got the shit kicked out of him, and finally Blackwood starts to make his way back, and then what kind of happened from there?
So the end of the match, Joey Janela grabs Blackwood and does like the superplex, but it's kind of like a little stalling superplex. It was more vertical than just like, hey, we're gonna go like in the arch form, we're gonna go up and
Yeah.
out. It was kind of more like, hey, I'm getting you up, I'm gonna hold it for a second, and then I'm gonna drop you, which was awesome. Kind of seeing a little, it was kind of like a brainbuster variation through the door. And then he goes to pin Kevin Blackwood lazily with the one arm. Blackwood kicks out,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately Joey switches positions, gets him in the crossface with the cravat hand positioning. And as MLJ and KG called it, they called it the cravat. What it cravat crossface? And
Yeah.
yep, he ends up getting it in a good position, sinking it in, and Kevin Blackwood taps out. And like you said, I think these last two matches were more old school, slower paced. And
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was good after seeing, like I said, those first 2 hours in my mind were just nonstop action, where it was kind of nice seeing it slow down and stuff like that. I kind of, me personally, wish it would have ended with a different match while having this nice technical match thrown in somewhere in the middle. But once again, here's my booker where I would mess up the match placement somehow, some way, and still wouldn't be left satisfied with my own booking. So GCW did nail it. It was an awesome show, one of the better shows, especially in more recent times. I'd say this last year is up there in the top three, at least for me so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
One of their cards, and it was a very fun show. Nice way to kind of end it off, and it gave a little spotlight to Kevin Blackwood in the main event scene going against Joey Janela, and hopefully in the future we'll see some more of the Joey Janela influence that Kevin experienced during this match, and Kevin could use that in his future endeavors in the GCW ring. Now on to the memorable moments of the night. I have a couple memorable moments. Just to start it off, I love seeing the Lakers colors. Like, I'm not even a Lakers fan. I love seeing the purple and gold out there. I love how they added the LA on top of the GCW. Like, it's a very nice way to kind of inject the LA into it without having it take over the whole GCW logo. I love seeing how they color coordinated those shirts the same way. Going into the night, obviously my big thing was going to be seeing Los Macizos going against Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne. And like, I was excited for the match, as I said, but I didn't know exactly how it would play out. But those four absolutely killed it, went above and beyond my expectations. That was the match of the night for me and the main highlight. And the last memorable moment I have is seeing Leo Rush back in a GCW venue. Hopefully he will get back in there in the ring, and we'll see how he ends up going, and how his interactions with Blake Christian that night, how that's going to affect this week's GCW versus the People, where Moxley goes up against Blake Christian. So those are the three memorable ones for me. Like, Leo Rush, huge fan of, glad to see him back. Jordan Oliver, Nick Wayne, most of CISO's killing it, and the purple and gold LA shout out that GCW did. What were your memorable moments of the night, John?
Okay, well, I'm the kid that if you tell me to take a cookie, I take two or three. So I have quite a few moments. I'll go quickly. I liked Emel's Zubaz pants, the old the old 80s, 90s pants that all the wrestlers used to wear with the fanny pack
Yes.
attached. Hearing Starman and think of the 80s movie / Nintendo game that from the WWE, or I'm sorry, from Nintendo. I don't think that was a WWE game.
No, I don't think so either.
No. Rob Shit reminding me of Pillman Sr. I thought that was really cool. Titus being the asshole that GCW needs. If they have storylines, he would be perfect for the company. Bussy solidifying legit title runs. I really thought that they helped make sure that happened this show. Janela being mad and losing his shit about the Brian Last sign was obviously a highlight.
At least no one hopped in the ring to attack him this time. That's another memorable moment I guess I should have added in there. No one went in and attacked Joey.
Fingers crossed that never happens, man. Commander being accepted by the fans, having an impressive showing, doing the running of the ropes. It always makes him so popular. The commentary, partaking during the show, the LA show just being a party atmosphere. Luckily, the boys hold it together. They make it enjoyable, and it's more about laughter than it is about being sloppy. Luckily,
yes.
I would like to have seen the times flipped for the Bussy match and the Janela match. So really what I'd like to have seen here would have been a 30-minute Bussy and SGC main event. And what I would have liked to have seen Janela and Blackwood drop down to cards where Bussy was and give them 17 minutes, so vice versa.
Absolutely.
I really think, yeah. Do you have anything to say on that one?
No, other than I agree with you 1,000% because this goes back to our whole title conversation. That would have been kind of a cool way to end that night. You get teams that are actually teammates and they team up with each other all the time, now going against each other for the GCW tag team title match. And SGC never disappoints. Seeing that match as a main event would have picked me up a lot more, where okay, let's get excited now. SGC, who are they going, or Bussy, who are they going against? Oh my god, it's SGC and it's the main event and it's for the tag team titles. My hype would have been way up, as it kind of I said, it died down kind of after their match. It kind of died down because of what was following next, and I kind of knew what to expect. I think, as you said, if those two roles got reversed, playing the booker that we are, I would have enjoyed it a lot more than what I currently did. And like I said, I'm not bashing it. I liked it. It was still awesome, still good, but that was another little change where maybe what's it called, sit on my couch and booking the match that way. That's how I would book it, but it's easier on my couch than it is making profit for all these wrestlers.
Well, this is one show where I don't know if it finally clicked for me when I realized how much a threat to the tag team titles SGC is and can be if they want to be. And then that kind of also runs into how strong they could be if they want to be.
Yes.
So I thought that was kind of cool. It was just another great SGC match from front to back. It looks like with the way LA shows are running constantly and the mat being changed now with the purple and the gold, it looks like GCW is going to be setting up permanent, home, not a permanent home, but they're setting up to where they're going to be regulars out there. They're going to be able to give us a show, it looks like every 3 months roughly.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Sorry about that. And they made mention of that being they call Los Angeles their second home. They love all the reactions and stuff like that, where I think now, as they're starting to see, they've been getting the kind of the feedback to do more death matches in LA, and this was a good start of it, of at least incorporating one, and maybe we'll start seeing more deathmatch wrestling for LA for GCW. And as you said, I know if they've called it their second home, I think it is. I call it their second home as well.
Oh, it's totally their second home with LA Fights there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely. Yeah, the other thing, it's not really a memorable moment. I'm kind of done with those. This is more of an after hours kind of thing. But I wanted to talk about Janela for a moment because there is a whole, he's catching shit right now from all kinds of angles. The dude's doing his best to try to put on, his best. With all that stress, it doesn't make it easier on him. I think he had a shiner the other night on his one eye because he said he got into a bar fight. So, I mean, things are kind of crazy. I don't know. If you have a chance, look that one up online.
Look it up.
But I just wanted to mention this because I thought this was kind of cool. These are some stats that I'd pulled, and I wanted to make sure we shared these with fans. Over the last 15 matches, Joey has averaged 21 plus minutes a match. And then I have one other stat here. It's not really a stat, but it's a little more of just information. Here's Joey Janela's last 11 opponents leading up to Back to the Bay, which we're going to cover here shortly, the next couple days. We have him taking, let's go backwards just for fun. Starboy Charlie's going to be on that Sunday show. Our show today was Blackwood. So then he took on Cole Radrick, Davey Richards, JT Dunn, Mike Jackson, Sawyer Wreck, Johnny Game Changer, Drew Parker, Masha Slamovich, and Speedball Mike Bailey. I can say for sure that is a lot of talent that he's been stepping into the ring with. And it's just, it's undeniable. It's really undeniable that what he's done this year so far has just been phenomenal work, especially for someone like Joey, let's say, where people have somewhat lower standards, but they're still a lot tougher on him. He's really stepping up, and I think he's been pushing himself to do that ever since he left AEW, and I think it's showing. I think the fact that he's taking care of himself better is showing. I think the fact that he's working out more is showing, and it really shows that he's putting effort out there, not just into himself, but into whoever he's stepping into the ring with. So I wanted to kind of leave on that note personally. I don't know if you had anything else to really add to it, but I just wanted to make sure for our boys' sake, I just wanted to throw some things out there that anybody could look up for themselves and see.
Yeah, I was just going to, I wanted to expand your Janela list of pretty much that's what he's done his last 11 matches. And going back, like I went back to the beginning of this year because that made me think of like all the crazy matches. Like I'll go over like the prior matches the opponents they had before. You got Gringo Loco, you got John Wayne Murdoch, you got Bandito, X-Pac, Ninja Mac, Mascara Dorada, Slade, Dr. Wagner Jr., Matt Cardona, Scotty Tuhati, and Minoru Suzuki. Like that's all just this year. And as you said, like Joey Janela has hit on all his matches. Like none of those I consider even like a bad match. They've been all at least on the above average or great in my opinion, as I think this is like kind of Joey's year of, I think this is his year of hate, like giving it to his haters. Like I could wrestle. You guys all think I'm a death match and a backyard wrestler. Like I have gone against the legendary Suzuki. I have gone against a Sawyer Wreck. I have gone against a 70-year-old Mike Jackson. I have gone against an uppercomer as Starboy Charlie. Like he has been on such a roll, in my opinion, where I know even a couple of my other wrestling fans, they hate on him. They don't like him. I was like, have you watched this match? Have you watched this match? Like they haven't seen anything recently of his. So they always want to go back to what they always say or see of him in GCW in a backyard setting where I just kind of, I'm standing up for Joey here, and like he deserves the recognition that he's on right now, or he deserves recognition for the role he's on right now of putting on banger after banger. And like, yeah, your last 11 opponents was awesome, and then I think the opponents I named were just as good. Like he's been putting on banger after banger against some of these names where you don't know how he would have a match against Suzuki. And to me, that was like on Suzuki's tour out here, that was one of the best matches I've seen Suzuki have on his tour, was against Joey Janela.
Well, the other thing I'm also thinking of in the back of my head here is you're naming out even more performers, is how many styles. I mean, what, 5, 6 different styles here? I mean, and there's not one. Cole Radrick is nothing like Masha. And Johnny Game Changer is nothing like Starboy. And JT Dunn is nothing like Gringo. And
yes.
So, I mean, how fucking adaptive and how great. I mean, I'm not talking greatness. No, I'm just saying how absolutely adaptive and how wonderful that he can go out there and gain that much experience, but also put on one heck of a match, be entertaining without having to be flipping off of this and diving off of that. And at the same time, you see these young kids. I mean, he's pushing Drew Parker. He's pushing Sawyer Wreck. You know, he's trying to make sure Cole Radrick looks good. Blackwood looks good. Starboy Charlie, he devotes over 20 minutes to Starboy Charlie, 30 on Blackwood. I mean, we're talking in the last 2 shows, damn near over 50 minutes he's devoted to make sure the next generation looks strong.
Yep.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And like you said, no matter the wins or losses, even if Joey has won, Kevin Blackwood came out better and as a better performer. He's going to be more over with the crowd now because of this performance. Like he is not only improving his name and his status in the wrestling world as he wants to do, he is in elevating everyone he's going against as well. And I think he has a stigma he wants to get rid of. In my opinion, he's gotten rid of that. Like, I don't have these stigmas. I don't ever pigeonhole person as being a tag person, a scramble person, a deathmatch person, a one-on-one who doesn't do deathmatch person. This is like, just because we haven't seen it from that performer doesn't mean it's not in there. It just means that the timing hasn't been right for them to demonstrate their deathmatch wrestling or their technical wrestling, or like I said, Commander, this was one of his nights to demonstrate his technical wrestling. Like, I just don't think if it's something we haven't seen, I think all these wrestlers are all around great performers in every setting, where they just haven't had the chance to demonstrate whatever you might want to hate on these wrestlers for. They just have not been given the proper platform or the proper time to execute the style of match that you want to hate on them for, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And this is kind of an interesting little thing that I was talking to my wife about that I learned from the indies, is that looks aren't everything. I was watching WWE, I was watching AEW, and then I would look at GCW, and I would look at, I don't know, I'm trying to think of someone who, I'm trying to think of someone offhand. I cannot, maybe Starboy Charlie. But I mean, I'm going from Roman Reigns, and I'm going from, Page, Brian Cage, and all of a sudden I'm over here on GCW looking at Starboy Charlie. And then I find out after I watch a couple shows, that kid's amazing and looks aren't everything. And it took a lot of shows, and it probably a year or so before I started to look past the looks, because I'd been trained since the 80s, since I was young, to look at looks. And then I realized looks and talent are two different freaking things. And just because you have the look doesn't mean you have the talent. And I can name 100 wrestlers in WWE who went that. And, I just wanted to say that, though, was that it's really not about the look. And if you can look past some of these folks who do have, let's just say they're missing the gear, or chances are they're one good decision away from having a complete character. Things like that, I think, would they get ironed out over time.
Yeah.
I had to mention that, though.
No, you're absolutely right. I hear a lot of the haters like, oh, like I can't watch GCW. You got Marco Stunt giving a good match to what's his name? Oh my god, KTB, and like and that would never happen in realistics. Like, I have grown, like as you said, I've kind of not evolved. I've changed my thinking, but in a way that's not forced. It's just natural, where I don't care about the size, the look, the gear, or whatever. Like, we call back to Chase Burnett going against Blake Christian. Like, who would have thought that would turn out as entertaining as it was? And Chase Burnett coming out as the old man gimmick, even though he's not an old man, but that's his gimmick. And he had an entertaining match against Blake Christian. Like, I've learned to not give my opinion right away, especially if it's a wrestler I've never seen. I'm like, okay, let's see what they got to offer. Then, okay, I like them, they're good. Or, oh my god, they blew my mind. I never would, like Axton Ray. Like, he just kind of looks plain, and I never heard of him. First time I saw him come out, I'm like, oh, who's this guy? Okay, let's see where he goes. And 2 minutes in, I'm like, I want to see more of him. Where can I find more of him at? So yeah, in my mind, I'm like, I'm thinking like I'm evolving as a fan to get myself out of the strict mindset of what a wrestler's supposed to look, act, sound like, and do everything, where I've now become way more open-minded of everything in the wrestling community, of everything of wrestling, where I'm like, I don't care if it's Alley Catch going against Nick Gage. Alley Catch is shown she could take an ass cooking. I really have a chance. I think the Alley Catch has a chance to beat Nick Gage. Or but Nick Wayne going against Ospreay, who's Ospreay's one of the best wrestlers in the world, where just because Nick Wayne's 16, 17, and he might not be as fully grown into his body as Will Ospreay has after all these years of being able to dedicate himself to doing all that stuff in his craft, where Nick Wayne goes out and has one of the performances of the year, surprisingly, against Will Ospreay. Like, I just think I know myself, I've got to be more open-minded and not letting looks, sounds, or any of that stuff deter me from what these actual performers are out there doing and blowing my mind away every single night I watch it.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening when you realize how much you're trained. by, okay, this is supposed to be this is supposed to be all the way down to, the optimal height in WWE can generally be where the chest, where the top rope hits the chest. They want to try to have a guy who, at minimum, that chest can hit that top rope. So, you also, because you're trained that it's always big guys, or at least I was because I come from that era, it's really hard to see a guy walk out 5'8", 165 and put down a match and he appears bigger than he really is and does it. And there is a formula, unfortunately, but fortunately there is a formula. It always changes over the years, but you have someone, and I'll speak outside of the company a little bit so it makes more sense. But if anybody has ever seen Hammerstone, he has an amazing look. He has the old school 80s big bodied, everything you'd want out of a wrestler if you wanted the mechanics and the body. And you look at that and you have to understand and respect that he is the look of that formula, and he will and may very well go farther than someone who never reaches past, say, 5'5", 5'6", and 165, 175. And it is also about height. Height does matter too. So when you start to watch GCW and some of these other companies, some of these guys don't have the height. Some of the guys you're going to watch aren't going to be as trained and as polished as they are on TV. The different styles, the storytelling is going to be way different than what you're used to. But once you get a taste for it, man, it doesn't stop. And it is so much nicer to go from being an expert in McDonald's and Burger King to being able to go and eat at the salad bar and then go over here and get a cheeseburger. And then, you know what? If I don't like Wednesday's show, Thursday night, guess what? My favorite wrestler's on again that night too, with a completely different person on a completely different show with a completely different feel. Whereas WWE, I'm going to get the same oatmeal. AEW is going to kind of give me the same oatmeal. And I do like, who the hell's going to show up as one of my questions, and I really mean it, instead of, well, maybe one guy here will surprise me and I haven't seen him in 8 months. Over here it's like, well, there's going to be at least 8 guys from outside the company showing up this week. I wonder who it is, and I wonder who they're going to go against.
Yeah, like going into like this event here, like when the Johnny Game Changer had a back out, I was interested who are they going to bring out? Is it someone, a name we've seen before and just haven't seen in a while? Are they going to play the safe route and bring out some like a Jimmy Lloyd? He was like, I think this was like actually the first card too. I didn't see any sign of Jimmy Lloyd, which is kind of disappointing in my end, but that kind of goes back of, hey, we're talking about how they look. Jimmy Lloyd doesn't look like a wrestler, like, and in the classical sense of, if you think about the wrestling that, like how you said, we grew up in, but I myself nowadays, I don't need, I love Hammerstone, not saying that he's bad, like, but I rather see Jimmy Lloyd, who loves the profession, is looking to improve, rather than watching a WWE, a 6'6", 300-pound former football player who has no love for wrestling, but is just trying to find another venue in the athletic form to make money off of and he's like, oh, somebody's going to like my looks, let me put him in the wrestling ring. Like, I would rather take a Tony Deppen, a Jimmy Lloyd, Cole Radrick, like guys that you don't think are of the same look as we are all normal, accustomed to. It's kind of nice seeing the passion and love that these wrestlers, that they have the chip on their shoulder, where I don't look like that, but I'm way better than them, and I will show you I'm better than them. So just going off of that, like, I think that's where I think Game Changer is hitting it. Game Changer Wrestling is, they are changing the game every week. You don't know who to expect. You're going to see different looks, different styles, different people every single show, and that's where GCW, in my mind, keeps it going and keeps on knocking it out of the park.
Well, yeah, it's variety, man. I love the variety of the whole thing. If you can't stand someone, it's okay. The next show, you may or may not see them. You kind of know who the regulars are, but you notice even when they're not, connected with the contract, they still show up every week or every show. Effie's going to be there. Allie's going to be there. Jimmy Lloyd's going to be there. It's nice to have those regulars. And hey, I'm not going to lie, dude. This storm that we have during this recording is incredible. So if anybody hears a little rumble or a noise in the background somewhere, we're not kidding. We're going hardcore. We're in the middle of a storm right now. So
yes, and I was just about to say, I think that's the Earth's way of saying, "Hey, wrap it up here because we're about to have a
Okay.
storm here." So, yes,
Yeah, man.
it was a fun show. Like I said, one of the top 3 shows I think of the year, and I think it could have. Based off match placement, could have been better, could have been worse. If you listen to my match placement, who knows? But this was an overall very well done show. I was super happy. I watched it at home and enjoyed it, even though my wife is super not happy that we weren't there to enjoy it. But she wins. I have learned my lesson. I will start listening to her whenever she wants to go to a GCW show in LA. I'll make sure to get front row tickets so that way no one stands in front of us. And yes, we covered No Signal in the Hills Part 2. We are on our next episode. We are going to cover Back to the Bay. That happened in San Francisco that same weekend. Weather permitting on our end. Hopefully here the storm doesn't knock us all out here. But I am going to wrap it up here so that way the storm doesn't cut this podcast off. I enjoyed the show. I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. Once again, please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, on YouTube, anywhere you find us. I am at Mystical Jericho on Twitter or the GCW Plant Podcast. You could find John at John J. Wolf on Twitter. And John, is there any last words you want to say before we get canceled here by the storm?
No, honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone. I'm really appreciative of everything.
Yes, and thank you all again. Like I said, keep on spreading that word. There's many fans out there that are probably unaware of any GCW podcasts out there that they want to get more content and information from. We just happen to be one of them. If you want to spread ours, go ahead. If you want to spread the GCW Patreon, go ahead. If there's any other GCW podcast maybe I'm unaware of, please shoot me that link and I'll go check it out, because that's why I started this podcast, is to make GCW content and to learn more about GCW. So I am always down to get any and all GCW content that I can in my hands and in my ears.
Yeah, we're all allies here. So, I mean, if someone else is shooting out a podcast, I mean, they literally have the same love we do.
Yes. So that's going to be it for GCW Plant Podcast episode 10. We will catch you all later this week. Hopefully we'll try to get in before the GCW show, as I promised. Some things out of our control have happened. So if we are a day late on my promise, I will apologize. I'll have to make something up where I have to do something crazy on Twitter or whatever to pay
give
for
away
$1,000.
$1,000.
I was thinking about eating like one of those hot chips or something, not giving away $1,000.
I'm down to watch you.
Right?
Yeah, I'm down to watch you.
But we are playing catch up. As we see, we're one more show we got to catch up on, and then we are back on schedule with the GCW crazy schedule that they have, and we are there. We are getting better, we are improving, and we will keep on doing this show for all of you GCW fans out there. So on behalf of myself, Mystical Jericho, Mr. John J. Wolf, we bid you adieu, and thank you all for listening to the GCW Plant Podcast.
Long live GCW.